Greetings and salutations, people. It's Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, which can just mean one thing. It's time for GameFace, the flagship show of Sifted Games at Sifted.net. We're here to talk with you, and I mean that, with you, for a good 2 hours about some of the biggest topics in gaming this week. And alongside me to do that is Matt Keil. What's up, Matt?
Hey.
You enjoying our LA weather we finally have again?
Sort of. I haven't been outside today.
No, it's beautiful. In fact, the last 3 or 4 days here have been absolutely gorgeous. Finally, I feel like I'm getting what I'm paying for being here.
Yeah, I was in San Francisco. I didn't
Always about 10 or 15 degrees colder than here.
Yeah, except there's like, you get about 2 or 3 magic weekends in San Francisco where everything's perfect weather-wise. And you're like, no wonder we live here. And then the next day, like, oh no, I forgot.
Fog's so thick you could cut it with a knife after like 10 p.m. I've definitely been there. I've been stranded in the Sunset back when we used to live there, like before Uber, and like there was no cabs in that city. No. I've been stranded in the Sunset at like a party at like 2 a.m. and couldn't get a cab and walked all the way down to downtown to get a freaking cab. It would be much nicer to live there now with Uber. Because back then, for whatever reason, the laws there, there weren't enough cabs in the city for whatever stupid reason.
Well, they never came down south of Market where we were all the
right.
time.
Right. That's a good point, too. Yeah.
Because they weren't used to that area being somewhere anybody needed a cab. Because, like, you know, when we were working there, that was new. There was office space down there.
It really was. And now they're like the old buildings.
Yeah, going into the city, I looked over and my sister's like, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, no, I'm just looking at the old Tech TV building, which is now
what is the building now?
It became the Zynga building. I don't know if it's still the Zynga. I don't know if Zynga moved or anything. But 650 Townsend.
Yeah.
Was the
8th and Townsend.
Yeah.
And when we were there, it was Sega on the top floor.
Yep.
It was Tech TV.
Yep, Tech TV.
Then ZDNet on the third floor, which was GameSpot.
And then Tech TV again.
Yeah, and then Tech TV. And then at the bottom, it was like Adobe.
Yeah.
That building back in the day.
Nokia was in there, too.
Yeah, that building back in the day was no joke, man. There were some big hitters in there.
And everything else around us was like fashion stuff.
Yeah,
it was a fashion district.
It really
and then,
was.
Tech started moving because it was the only place with office space large enough and cheap enough to justify. And then like around the corner, Dolby was over there.
Yeah.
So like it slowly kind of turned into a tech central.
And then it didn't.
There's still some stuff down there, but like mostly, I mean, it's also funny to see that area that's all like built up into like.
It looks nothing like
it's
when
like
we
neighborhoods and walkable locations and cafes, and back when we were there, it's just warehouses, and you don't go there after the sun goes down. Like
and then they were trying to build it.
And everyone who did like game events were like, we're doing a party at this point. Like, you want us to drive down there at 9 p.m.? Are you kidding?
Well, then that whole area was built on landfill, and so they tried to build in a big apartment complex that sank, and they had to like tear it down. It's crazy. Did you see the
tower is still sinking?
Is it?
People wake up in their $1 million condos, and the glass in their windows are shattered because overnight
the bind.
It's tilted enough that it was enough to break the glass.
Did you see the new Nintendo store in San Francisco while you were there?
Oh no, that's inside.
That's a shame.
It's inside the same frame. I'm sure there will be signage when it's open, but obviously it's not open yet, so there's no reason to advertise it. I walked past it because we had to walk past that place on the way back to BART.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was also 1 a.m.
Right?
There's nothing to see.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's in the St. Francis. Not the St. Francis. I think it's the St.
That's
Francis
the one right off the square there. Yeah.
That's
interesting. I thought they'd have a storefront right on the square.
Like, I'm sure they will once they're open. Like,
yeah.
There'll be signage out there once they're open, but like right now you don't. It just looks like the normal hotel.
Opens May 15th, people. If you're a West Coaster, it is only the second Nintendo store in America. There's one in New York City, which is awesome, and now there's going to be one in San Francisco at Union Square. Mm-hmm. So make a little sojourn to the Bay Area.
Just in time for the Switch 2.
Right. Yeah, so it's opening May 15th.
You got $1,000 burning a hole in your pocket.
Well, as of right now, it's opening May 15th in Nintendo Store. And then 3 weeks later, on June 5th, the Switch 2 launches. Maybe. We'll get into that, because this has been an insane week. We're actually back in 6 days instead of 7, because if you remember last week, we did the show on Wednesday because of the big Nintendo event happening that morning. So we're back in 6 days. A lot has happened in the last 6 days in Nintendo land. It has been insane, actually, all the stuff that has happened. All the new information that has come out about Switch 2 since we did this show. It was kind of a blessing and a curse for us to do the show so quickly after the announcement because we got on it when it was hot, but we missed kind of all the follow-up stuff. We missed
all the screaming.
Right. Yeah. Actually, maybe it worked out for the best. So anyway, one of the big topics today is us rounding up all the Switch 2 stuff that happened after we closed last week's episode. And a lot has happened. We're going to review South of Midnight today as well on the show. We have a great show for you guys. Hopefully you guys are excited. Let's actually check in with you guys. Let's hit up our chat. Let me put my glasses on so I can see. Bring you guys up and see what y'all are saying on this fine Tuesday afternoon. Let's see. Oh, first I want to thank Talika1981 for Twitch Prime. Thank you, man. Yeah, everyone's like, it's Tuesday. It's only been 6 days since we did our last one. Pre-ordered my Switch 2 Mario Kart World Bundle. Can't wait. Lucky you that you actually live somewhere where you can pre-order because we cannot do that here. I don't know what's going on.
Or in Canada.
Right. They just decided that today that you can't pre-order in Canada either now.
Well, because all the supply comes through here.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo of America handles all North American distribution.
Yeah.
So they got to figure out what the tariff nonsense is going to be for that.
Yep.
If the Switch ends up being like $1,000 Canadian up there, like forget
it's
it.
Done.
Forget it.
It's over. Yeah. Andy T. Monhan says, remind me never to bring up the scenario that there are people who don't solely play Nintendo first party or the issues with the world economy outside the U.S. to a Nintendo enthusiast again.
Yeah, they don't like that. They don't like that idea.
What idea?
That there's people who play things other than Nintendo games. And I mean, I hit that too. I said in a couple of things like, are you going to buy more third-party games? Like, why would I buy third-party games on the weakest platform?
Right.
Like, again, like I'm, great.
Because they don't think that way.
But I'm like, no, I'm going to play it on a real system.
Because they're only going to own Switch 2.
The Switch 2 is for Nintendo games.
It is, yeah.
And if I could play Nintendo games on my PC a year later, I wouldn't buy a Switch 2. It's that fucking simple.
It is that simple. Sir Laszlo the Great, welcome to GameFace. Congratulations on your first-time chat. Thank you for being a part of our community. We're here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, unless you tried to watch us last week.
Yeah, unless Nintendo decides to do something on Wednesday.
Yep. But welcome. And he has a question. Let's answer it since it's his first chat. Do you think the PS6 is going to get delayed because of tariffs?
Oh, my God. I hope this isn't still going on. The PS6 is happening.
If this is still happening in 2027 or 2028, the world will be over, and there will not be a PS6.
You're not going to be worried about buying a PS6.
The last thing on your mind will be a video game console, let me just tell you, because the whole world will be torn asunder if this happens for another 4 years. It will be literally like game over. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But to humor you and answer your question, probably not. At least I would hope not. That would be a nightmare. Aussie Brit 2000, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Eve Demon says, sorry, boys, you can't separate politics from gaming. We've tried. It is impossible.
No, all art is political, and all business is subject to politics. So, especially when you're using business as a cudgel. So, what can you do? I mean,
we went a long time without.
You can't talk about the increased prices that are coming up on things
without explaining why it's happening.
That they're just happening out of the ether. It's not a thing.
If you watch podcasts on IGN or GameSpot or any of the big publications, that's how they are.
Oh yeah, but if
they have to sit there and act like this is just happening due to stupid luck.
Oh, if those darn leprechauns.
I mean, look, it is a tough situation if you're Pear or John Davison at IGN.
I mean, you can't say something that's going to alienate the morons.
I mean, it's been a problem for me. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. I've lost money because I'm willing to speak my mind on what's going on. That's just the truth of the matter, and it's a decision that you need to make. Are you willing to stand by your principles and maybe lose a little bit of money, or are you not? I decided ultimately that I was.
Yeah, it's like, look, and it's like, do I need to bring up any of that stuff when, like, we're talking about the new Mario game? No.
Right.
But, like, if we're going to talk, if the Switch 2 is suddenly $700 in a couple weeks, we're going to,
We're going to talk about why we think it's happening.
As they say in The Great Race, if Yeah, until the water reaches my upper lip, and then I'm gonna mention it to somebody.
Yeah.
It's like, you gotta admit what's happening at some point. Well, no, I guess some people don't have to admit what's happening. Apparently.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that just want to live with their heads up their butts.
But if you're gonna talk about the business side of the game industry this year, you're gonna have to talk about politics because that is what's happening.
Yeah, Danny Endurance, love you guys. We love you too, Danny. Hope you're doing good, man.
It's fascinating to see so many things that I'm interested in suddenly have to like institute politics rules, and this guy like every Transformers forum I'm on had to come up with new rules for discussing politics because suddenly tariffs are hitting all the imports and the prices.
I mean, it's going to happen with every industry, so it is what it is. You're going to have to deal with it, whether you like it or not.
Trying to explain tariffs to these idiots, and then they're being told that no, that's how leftists think tariffs work.
No, that's how tariffs work.
You need to learn how a tariff works. I'm like, bro, I think you're the one who's about to learn how a tariff works.
The hard way. At least we're all going to get screwed. At least I'm prepared to be screwed. Yeah. Maybe I can get a little bit of lube before it happens.
Yeah, we're all the Grail Guardian guy in Last Crusade. My soul is prepared, Dr. Jones. How's yours?
I mean, look, we do try to have fun with this as much as we can while my heart is breaking, but it's really not a laughing matter, sadly. Justin Horman, thank you for subscribing at Tier 3, brother. As always, you're amazing. Thank you. I don't know how many more times I can say it.
You gotta laugh or you're gonna go crazy.
You will seriously. You have to laugh at it. For a long time, Matt, I stopped watching. Like, actually, for the last 3 months, I've not watched any comedy around politics because it just made me mad. It didn't make me laugh. And then a turning point happened for me with these tariffs where I was like, man, I can't let this keep building up. I need to laugh. I need the catharsis. And I've returned.
I went with some of my friends to see Hal Sparks a couple weeks ago. Apparently, he does a free show at Flappers every last Friday of every month.
Wow!
I hadn't seen or really thought of Hal Sparks in many years.
Me either.
And when he came out, my mental image of Hal Sparks was still from the I Love the '80s era, and I'm like, oh my god. He hasn't cut his hair since the pandemic. He's just
really.
He kind of looks like evil Dale Cooper from the Twin Peaks season 3.
Yeah,
he's got a little bit of that vibe going on. But he was very, very funny and didn't shy away from anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if you pick the right comedian,
it can be cathartic. Totemish.
Taylor Tomlinson is also a good one for these dark times.
Yeah. Okay. Totemish, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Appreciate it. Ashes in the Hourglass says, as a Canadian, I have more reasons to hate America. Yeah. Here's the thing. We totally understand why you would want to boycott American companies and stuff like that. But, some people are boycotting us. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, we have stood up against this all this time. And I get it. It's just like, I just don't want to give any money to any American company. I understand that. But if you're silencing the people who are actually standing up for you, I don't know if that's the right tack, but again,
boycotts are boycotts.
Yeah.
Like, and you're still also, you got to remember you by doing that, even supporting anyone, even if you're like, oh, the people that I'm supporting are cool, you're still funneling money through Patreon.
Yeah, you're right. Man, you don't know what Patreon believes or whatever.
I have my suspicions.
They are a San Francisco company, but you're right.
Yeah, so are most of these fuckers.
That's true. They have kind of turned tail. Once they're like, oh, I can make more money? Pharaoh Doll says South of Midnight is my favorite game in a while. Okay, cool. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Mitch Secor, what's up, Mitch? How are you doing, man? Are you still in LA? I'm assuming you are. I haven't talked to you in a while. I think the last text message I sent you was like, hey, you want to go play tennis? And I never heard back from you. I hope you're doing good, though. If you can remember, Mitch worked with us here on GameFace for a while, and then he was working at Naughty Dog. I'm assuming he's still there. I'm not 100% sure, though. Hope you're doing good, Mitch. What else we got here? Cinetype, pre-orders in Portugal for the bundle. Yeah, you guys are all able to pre-order, and no one else is. Europe's allowed to.
If anything doesn't route through America, then you're fine.
Yep, the bundle are €510. That's $560 USD, VAT included. I'm sorry, man, but it's made. We may end up paying $600. Watch the latest Factor.
Be more than that.
Like, he breaks it down. Like, it's probably going to cost at least $600 in the U.S. if the tariffs aren't lifted. Legacy says it'll be cheaper to fly to Canada and buy a Switch 2 than buy one in the United States.
I don't know about that because all the Canadian product has to go through the United States.
Yeah.
And there are, like, everything that Nintendo, and this is for a bunch of companies do this, like, you get all your product into the U.S., and then there's, like, a percentage of it, like, earmarked to go to Canada and Mexico, usually.
Yeah.
And then there's, like, basically there's duty-free, tariff-free, like, exceptions for that kind of shipment, just like in the name of international trade. because that's how economies work. And so,
exactly.
But like those like exceptions don't exist anymore. So like you might be charged, like the tariff might hit every single Switch 2 that comes into North America, and then there would be tariffs whatever Canada puts on the U.S. in retaliation. Can't blame them.
Yeah, I don't blame them at all.
So you'd be paying like.
Yeah. By the way, we don't blame any of you guys for putting tariffs on the U.S. Just so you know, we totally get it.
So Nintendo would
understand.
Nintendo would be paying the tariffs to bring the Switches into the country, and then like the retailers or whoever would have to pay the tariffs on the Canadian side
when they pick it up. Yeah.
For picking it up. So by the time it gets to the consumer level in Canada, it's gone through 2 rounds of tariffs that could. Like it could boost the price in Canada to 1,000 Canadian. Like there's just no way.
Literally, just gave me chills.
There's just no way to know. Like,
it's crazy.
There's no way to know that shakes out or who absorbs what or who goes where. And people are like, "Oh, why don't you just charge everyone more and like divide it out amongst?" It's like, dude, Canada has 10% of our population. You can't divide. You can't even out the extra U.S. tariff cost to 350 million people. Right. To 10% of that population and expect it to somehow even like you're gonna get charged more. Nintendo of all companies is not going to suck up a 46% increase.
No, I know.
In the name of consumer.
I mean, no company is. You have to have a profit margin to stay in business.
Well, Nintendo has always sold things at a profit margin.
35% margin on hardware.
Sell hardware at a profit. They're the only ones who have always done that.
Yep, you're right. Retro Modern Gamer says they said they want these tariffs resolved by June for better deals for the U.S. with other countries. If this goes on until June, the world will end.
Yeah, you can't really do a month and a half.
You can't just
severe
tease crashing the world economy. You can't do that. Nobody gets this, Matt. Nobody understands how you start this. It turns into the entire world.
Well, lots of people understand it. They just aren't
not
the
enough
ones making the choices.
Yeah, not enough. And that's a big problem in general. Is that people are just not informed because they're busy. You have 3 kids. Anything.
I saw someone who's like, everyone was talking about banana prices going up, and this woman was like that doesn't make any sense. We grow bananas in every state in the country. It's like we don't grow bananas anywhere in the country. I mean, maybe you could grow it in Hawaii, but we don't. Like people just don't know anything.
It's
and
really
they think
the problem.
They do. That's
the problem because they're on social media and they think that they've learned from social media and they don't know anything. It's really that's the root of all the problems in our country is people just don't know. They're watching networks that intentionally lie to them.
That plus the people who don't know anything used to not vote.
No, you're right. And now
Trump
they do.
turned it into a team sport that they enjoy participating in, so they still don't know anything, but they vote the way they're told, and that's basically what happens.
Yeah.
And yes, the board game industry is basically over.
Yeah, the board game industry is really in trouble. Yeah.
And people are talking about, he's like, oh, we could bring we can't, the manufacturing to make those things doesn't exist here, and all the machinery you use to make that stuff is made in China. So you're talking about, like, this one guy who runs like a mid-sized company was like, yeah, if I would have to lay out millions of dollars to open a factory that could produce the things that I need to produce, and by that point, I'm out of money and I can't produce the thing that you want me. There is a theoretical way to do this, like, over the course of like 10 to 20 years, and like transition everything to American manufacturing if that absolutely is something you want to do. But you can't just like cut your leg off and then go run a marathon.
But I don't want that. I don't want the rest of the world to hate us. I don't want to go to Europe in fear that the people in the restaurant are spitting in my food. Like, anyway, we should just stop there because maybe we need to do a political podcast, honestly, because the ones that are out there effing suck. I can't find a single podcast to listen to or watch that I'm not like, you're an idiot too. Like, they root for the right things, but the podcast still sucks.
Yeah,
so.
But what, the new number one is Midas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think they're terrible.
Yeah, they're just sort of Joe Rogan for the other side.
Left, yeah.
And they don't act like that on like their Instagram posts and stuff. But the podcast is a sensationalist.
I tried
nonsense.
to listen. I couldn't do it.
I couldn't get through that either.
Mr. Jack535, thank you very much for Twitch Prime. That's freaking awesome. We appreciate it. Swan Senpai says, it feels like we're living in a Black Mirror episode. I'll just be honest with you. There have been times where I have like pinched myself and I've wondered if like I died at some point and didn't know it and I'm in hell. Because for somebody who is a journalism major where you're trained to search for truth, I mean, that's really what you do when you go to journalism school. It's like, here's how you find what really happened. And if you're somebody who's trained in that and you're watching what's happening around you and you're watching all this misinformation and disinformation like take over for the truth, it is madness. I can't even put it into words how this whole thing makes me feel. I can't. And I'm a journalism major. So I hear you. It feels Black Mirror. I'd rather be in Black Mirror than what we're in right now. It's crazy what's happening. Erebus says if Brexit was taught the world anything, it's that brain dead people that vote for brain dead policies will never ever admit their policy was brain dead. I know. I don't expect them to reverse. We just have to get more people to vote. That was what happened. Not as many people voted as 2020. Like 20 million people just stayed home. And this is what happens. Mm-hmm. It's not that hard to vote. I'm busy AF and I managed to vote. Like, anyway. Ashes says, sorry, Shane, a large part of the world has hated America since Iraq. Come on, people aren't spitting in our food when we go to Europe, but they may be now. Userfriendly.exe, have you tried listening to Majority Report? A little bit. A lot of it just comes off as whiny and gotcha. It's like, hey, look, this person on the right said something stupid. Yeah, they always say stuff that's stupid. No, it doesn't matter. Like,
there's always just like, oh, we got him. No,
we got him that time. No, you didn't get anybody.
Anything.
You didn't get anything. It doesn't do anything. Like, you need to lay out to people why they're being misled, and they won't do it.
I mean, the tweet that kind of like sums all of that up was made during the 2016 election, which was like, you know, it's like, haha, I'd like to see Trump wriggle his way out of this jam. Trump easily wriggles his way out of the jam. Well, nonetheless,
yeah,
it's like, and that just happens over and over and over.
Yep. So anyway, it's just nuts. And I don't know what I would do if I were at an IGN or Game Trailers or GameSpot right now where I was owned by a big corporation and they're like, half of our stockholders are MAGA or whatever. I don't know how I would deal with it. Mm-hmm. It would be hard to sit on a podcast and talk about these tariffs and not bring up why they're happening.
Well, it goes back to the long, you know, like I remember when Gamergate was happening. I was back, 11 years ago, and I was thinking like, man, if X-Play was still on, we'd be in trouble because we would not have been quiet.
Oh, we would lay into it. But see, you think,
and we would all been getting the death threats.
I think the big problem is that there's no reward for that. Like, whereas, I'm not going to name names, but there are certain games journalists who have decided that, like, I'm going to lean right, and I'm going to try to appeal to these people. Their business is booming because the people on the right are like, hey, that guy believes what I believe and supports what I support. I'm going to support that person. That doesn't happen on the other side. Like, for example, like a bunch of Canadian, I get it again, they dropped their pledges this month because we're an American company and they're from Canada. Instead of, like, saying, hey, these guys are actually out there punching for us, putting their necks on the line for us, it doesn't matter. They're just like, sorry. So that's why you don't see people talk about this stuff on podcasts, because there's only a detriment to doing it. That's it.
Yeah, well, I can look myself in the mirror in the morning.
You're right. Yeah, it's hard to put a price on that. But anyway, we're going to get to, we probably won't talk tariffs for Switch 2, but we're going to talk about a bunch of Switch 2 stuff here in a minute.
Mr. Starwalker says, why don't people in the U.S. vote for some independent instead of always Republican or Democrat? Because no independent has a chance of ever winning.
Yeah. Basically, if you vote for an independent, you're just voting for...
you're throwing your vote away if you do that. Yeah. Because it's a first-past-the-post system. And so if the person you don't vote for, doesn't win, if the person you vote for doesn't win, your vote doesn't mean anything. There have been states like Maine that are starting to switch
ranked choice.
Thank God to ranked choice, which is basically like you pick your preferences, and if the number one preference isn't going to win, your vote transfers to your number two preference.
You still get some value, yeah.
And in that case, you would not. But a first past the post system is always going to settle into some kind of two-party system. Yeah. And that can vary. Like you've got multiple parties in like the UK, and they more or less work the same way. But you always have the two front runners. It doesn't really matter the other way around.
Yeah.
In America, it's more polarized than anything else because the Electoral College also guarantees that like everything becomes zero sum on like 3 different levels in the federal presidential election. So like, there's no shot. There's never a shot.
Yeah, voting third party is basically just flushing your vote down the toilet. Unfortunately, follow Nick. Thank you for Twitch Prime. Veritas says party system doesn't work like that. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and there's ways to ranked choice would eventually even out into something that didn't have to be a two parties. I mean, maybe it might still be because people might still just vote for those two things.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't matter, but there would at least be the possibility.
I think a lot of gamers are learning that politics do matter. And even ones that didn't want it mixed in with gaming.
We'd have learned that back when the ESRB was established. But.
Yeah, I mean, we've known that for a while, but there's a lot of people who just prefer...
I remember Tipper Gore trying to shut down video games and rap music. I was around for that.
I was too. Yeah. Vincent says Alaska went ranked choice. They elected a Democratic representative, then they tried or did to repeal it. Yep. Well, it's just like Elon trying to buy the Supreme Court in Wisconsin. There's so much messed up stuff going on.
To be fair, that didn't work.
It didn't work.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, there's some
$25 million can't even buy you a damn
vote
Supreme Court justice anymore. What's the world coming to?
He may have bought him the presidency, though. Immortan Joe, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. Appreciate that very much. All right, we got to get going. We don't have a crazy packed show today, but I think we have enough to get out to our full 3-hour allotment. Also, one thing I should mention, you're probably wondering, like, hey, why are they reviewing South of Midnight in the show? It's because Matt did not have a chance to play it. So we tried one time to do a live review where I was the only one that had played the game, and it was okay. But it's better when Matt and I can discuss.
My plan was that I would come back yesterday and play it last night, but then it turned out it was going live 9 this morning.
It's
which
not
is
going to work.
Odd. I didn't want to buy the early access for 8 hours.
An hour? I get it. I totally get it. So anyway, we're going to talk about it on the show instead of doing a separate live review for South of Midnight. So we'll be discussing that in a bit. But before we do that, we're going to discuss Nintendo Switch 2. So much stuff has come out.
For some reason, I was waiting for Ellis Cream right there.
Well, I've been mixing it up where I'm throwing in Ellis Cream. Usually we wait till after the first big topic now to run Ellis Cream's ad, but I've flipped it around. Like I waited 2 topics like a couple weeks ago, just mixing things up. But first, we're going to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2, and a lot of stuff, has happened since we talked about it 6 days ago. Like I said, we got to talk about all the things that were announced in the event. But since then, first of all, I didn't even realize at the time, Matt, how many things Nintendo had left out. At first we were like, wait, they didn't include the price in the presentation. That ended up just being one of 30 things that they didn't include in the presentation. In hindsight, now that it's a week later, Matt, why do you think that they didn't put the price in the presentation?
My guess is they weren't sure yet.
Yeah, because of the tariffs and stuff.
Yeah, people have been yelling at it about, how did they not see this coming that was in the pipeline? That's probably why there was no price. But the day comes and you got to bite the bullet, and so you put the price that you think you're going to charge on the website, and then the next day that changes and you have to delay pre-orders. That's just how it works.
Yeah, just before we get going here, just so you know, in case you haven't been connected over the last 5 or 6 days, they initially announced that pre-orders were supposed to start on April 9th, and once the tariffs were announced late last week, Nintendo said, we're not going to do pre-orders at all until we figure out what the final price is going to be. And then today, they announced they're not doing pre-orders in Canada either.
Yeah, I believe my belief that the 450 was not tariff-related in terms of pricing has turned out to be accurate.
Yeah, it was just 450.
Clearly, they weren't ready for that kind of thing.
Yeah. So right now, 450, just so you know, it's not going to go lower than that. Trump can take the tariffs away.
The system is $450.
Right.
It's always going to be $450.
If the tariffs stay, Pactor is predicting it'll cost $600. Matt, you have a higher prediction.
I think it's going to be closer to $700.
Yeah.
Everybody
has a different take on it.
It just depends. It depends how much Nintendo wants to absorb and what kind of mitigation they want to put in place. Theoretically, they could raise prices across the planet to mitigate the cost in North America, depending on how much they think that's their profit deal, as Pactor might say it.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Yeah.
We just don't know what the Nintendo business gurus are going to decide to do. But yeah, 600 seems like a floor for sure.
So chances are, unless the tariffs are lifted,
higher in Canada and Mexico, and probably all of South America. I think all of Nintendo's product distribution goes through the U.S. first. So
North America.
I think the entire Western Hemisphere is going to be screwed.
It might be. It might be. I'm interested actually to know if Nintendo ships the other direction around the globe to get to Europe, or if it goes all the way across the Pacific, across America.
Usually those shipments would go through the Suez Canal.
That's what I figured. Yeah. So that might help Europe. You guys may be all right.
Europe should be fine. Europe should not be subject to any of that. I think that's why pre-orders are actually happening there already.
Retro Modern Gamer says Japan is negotiating with the U.S. on tariffs. All I'm going to say is don't believe what you're watching on television. That's all I'm going to say. And especially so depending on which television you are watching.
And tons of that stuff is still made in China.
Yep.
So, they're talking about moving a lot of stuff to Vietnam, which
they already did.
Yeah,
but now it's got a 50% tariff. So that whole plan to get around the tariff, because they knew Nintendo was dealing with Trump
even
in
though
his
Vietnam
prior
basically
administration.
Gave whatever he wanted.
Trump started hinting at this with Japan the last time he was in office. So Japan knew when he was elected, here we go again. So they started shifting all their production to Vietnam, and now it's getting hit harder than Japan as of right now. But who knows? That could change in 30 minutes. Because He's like a 4-year-old who just flashes in his mind, and he's like,
oh.
oh.
I mean, I don't think he'll back. I mean, he already did his thing for the day, slapping the 104% on China. Which I couldn't figure out if that's an addition to, or
nobody knows.
If it's just the total now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is.
Nobody knows. So anyway, that's the latest on the Switch price and pre-orders. If you're in the U.S. or Canada, it's a fluid situation, unfortunately.
Yeah, they claim it's still June 5th for release, but
that could change too.
If you never get a chance to take any pre-orders, you might need to change that.
That's true.
I imagine that'll stay the same for like Europe and Japan.
Yeah.
Like
U.S. Who knows? We really don't know. So here is a list of stuff that came out about Switch 2 over the last 5 or 6 days. First up, the battery life is worse than the first Switch. It's around 2 hours per charge, depending on the game that you play. The Switch OLED, just so you know for reference, its baseline is 4 hours, so its range is 4 hours to like 9 hours or something like that. Switch 2 is 2 hours to like 4 hours. So you're getting a big cutback on battery life here, which is really, really important for a handheld. Now, Matt and you and I never played as handheld, so it doesn't matter to us that much, but it sounds like it's about 50-50 with Switch as far as how people play, whether they play docked as a console or as a handheld. So there's a big chunk of Nintendo's audience there that's going to be negatively impacted, but this shouldn't be a surprise. Like, if you look at the side-by-side comparisons of Switch 2 to Switch 1, it is, like, gigantic compared to Switch 1. I was really surprised to see how much bigger it was than the first Switch, because I felt like Switch 1 and OLED were kind of at the limit for a handheld as far as size is concerned. And Switch 2, like, you have to have some real big, you have to need some raver pants from, like, the late 90s to fit the Switch 2 in your jean pocket. That's all I'm going to say.
This is not a portable system.
It really isn't. Like, it is in, like, name, but in practicality.
Like, you can take it around the house.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't take it outside.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take it, like, to work with me every day on, like, the train or whatever. But some people will, I'm sure. I have a case for my first Switch, and I always take it with that. But, I mean, when I first started traveling after Switch came out, I took it all the time. I don't even take it anymore. I've just realized I just don't have time to play it. When I get time away, I don't want to play games. It's like the 1 week out of the year that I don't play games for like 60 hours. So I try to stay away from it. As far as the hardware is concerned, everyone was confused about, you know, what the GPU and the CPU were. While that hasn't been announced specifically, NVIDIA did come out and say that Switch 2 will use both DLSS, which we already knew, and ray tracing, which we actually did not know. But NVIDIA stopped short of saying exactly what was in the system, but Digital Foundry claims to have figured it out. It claims that the Switch 2 utilizes NVIDIA's T239 chip and the Ampere architecture found in the 30 series GPUs. But everything else is all brand new and proprietary. But the base chip comes from that those 30 series cards, which, wow. Like, oh, there's some old-ass cards. But at the end of it all, the results seem to speak for themselves. The games look better than I thought they would. But I will admit I had kind of a low bar.
They certainly look better than the Switch.
Right.
That's really all they need to do.
That's true. So that's pretty much what we found out about the hardware over the last 5 or 6 days. And then there's that new thing that they showed last week called Game Chat, which is this crazy, like, Discord-like video and audio chat service that will come with Switch 2. We thought that was just going to be, like, baked into the hardware and just a feature of the hardware that everybody can use. That is actually not the case. If you want to be able to use that C button on the right Joy-Con, you're only going to be able to use that for free until March of 2026. And at that point...
They said that in the...
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they said it's going to be free until March...
Really?
Yeah.
Everyone must have missed that because it was a story yesterday.
No, that was 100% in that.
Interesting.
In
I missed that too, actually. So anyway, just so you know, because we didn't mention it.
Turns out the
week.
C on that button stands for cha-ching.
Yeah. Good one, Matt. So as it turns out, if you want to use this video chat thing that you're seeing right now on Switch 2, you have to be a subscriber to Nintendo Switch Online. And that's the only way that you'll be able to use it after March of 2026.
To be fair, how else would you... if you can't play games online,
why would you use it? Just as a general video chat thing.
Yeah, but everybody has 14 other ways to do that. Who needs a Switch for that?
Like FaceTime?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point of this in general, Matt? Let's be honest.
create a controlled environment so like parents with kids can feel safe putting out, because you get to choose who they get to see. And,
right.
That's all. You set up a group with your kids' friends, and they can all play online and talk to each other. And they aren't talking to some weirdo radicalizing them on Roblox.
Which happens.
Which 100% happens.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing, Matt, is that you will have until March of 2026 to realize that this feature is absolutely worthless and something you would not be willing to pay for. So, it all kind of works out in the end. You'll get to use it for free for 8 or 9 months. You'll realize there's no way in hell you want to pay extra money for it, and then it goes away. Mm-hmm. And then you'll probably never think of it ever again. And that'll be it for Game Chat.
I mean,
on Nintendo Switch
I'm
2.
never going to think about it at all in the first place. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, also you have to buy the camera to make it work, which is an extra $60. So
yeah, I mean, I can't see too many people doing that.
I mean, it's completely insane that
maybe I can repurpose the Kinect.
Right. I mean, it's insane that this is Nintendo's big feature for Switch 2. I mean, for Nintendo to think that was going to make a big splash.
I mean, the big feature is Mario Karty. Mario Karty.
That should be a game.
That's a good idea. Yeah, you can have that one.
That really
Shigeru.
is a great name.
There you go. Mario Karty.
That would be great, actually. So anyway, that's what we know about the hardware. The eShop is going to be overhauled for Switch 2. No surprise there, and thank God. Because honestly, the eShop on the Switch was the worst part of Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
The laggiest. I mean,
the store has been pretty bad for all of their systems for a long time. The most hilarious thing I saw people complaining that it turned out that they confirmed there will be no music in the eShop, and people are like mad about it.
Why?
They're like the Wii store, like the music which is in my head right fucking now. The music was made everything, and it's like they're like, oh, they made it seem fun and da 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 da. I'm like, yeah, it made it seem fun because there was nothing else to fucking do.
Yeah.
You understand that the Wii Shop had music in it for the same reason that like when you call customer service, there's music because you got to give the customer something to do while there's nothing fucking happening.
There. Yeah, no, you're right. Yep.
And Nintendo's explanation was that because so many things that you pull up on the shop have trailers that autoplay, they don't want to interrupt that. And I'm like, you don't have a fade that you could just fade out the music and bring up the trailer?
Right.
I feel like you could probably do that.
It's Nintendo, though, Matt.
I mean,
they make the simplest things seem impossible.
Yeah, it took them how many years to put chat in there? So.
Yep.
But it's just, I mean, I don't care. I mean, but I saw people that were like saying, like, I don't know if I want to buy the system now because this, and I'm just like, when did we all lose our fucking minds?
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
It's been interesting for me to see people think that an extra $10 for a game is like the end of the world.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's $10.
Yeah, but also it's like, don't.
It's a precedent. I get that, but.
I mean, I understand being more upset about Nintendo doing it in the sense because A, it gives everybody else permission to do it, and B, that game ain't never coming down in price.
No.
I mean, we used to have to wait around for Nintendo games to hit $39.99 at best.
Yeah.
Now they're probably going $49.99 is probably going to be your floor
if you're lucky.
for these things.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never going to get a better deal on Mario Kart
than buying the bundle.
Yeah. $50.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, you should definitely buy the bundle if you want Mario Kart.
I imagine it'll be very hard. I mean,
while supplies last.
Yeah, the 5 seconds you get a pre-order on it.
You're right. Yep. So eShop's being overhauled. Switch controllers will work with Switch 2. Now, obviously, they don't have that C button that you're never going to want to press.
Every 5 minutes, a little message will pop up and just be like, Switch 1, huh?
Right. or there'll be like a little thing for like the game chat. You could be using game chat. You could be using game chat. Like, I don't want game chat. I'm cool with these controllers.
It'll be like in, God, what was that? What was that game? It was Metal Gear Solid 1. That's what, if you didn't have a controller with Rumble, it made fun of you.
Right. Yeah.
And it was just like, you don't have a controller with Rumble? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So I think it was Otacon. It was like, be like, what's wrong with you, Snake?
Yeah, because didn't it need the Rumble for one part of the game?
There's a couple things where it helped a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a thing where that they considered where it mocked you for not having a DualShock.
Right. Yep. So Switch controllers work with Switch 2, so that Pro Pad that you have for Switch 1, keep it. It's going to work with Switch 2, and you won't have to buy the new updated Pro controller for the Switch 2 if you don't plan on using the C button, which I think it's safe to assume none of us are gonna. And then the final thing about the hardware before we move on to software is Nintendo is still going to use friend codes.
Yeah, they're never dropping friend codes.
Yeah. I mean, they're just so concerned about the illusion of protecting children, I guess. I mean, I don't understand why they think that a friend code keeps children more safe than just being able to just add somebody.
Well, objectively, it does.
You think?
Because I've never gotten any kind of weird-ass spam messages on any Nintendo system, and I get them all the time on the Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, but you can set... So I used to get those, and I set it up so that they can't send those anymore. Like, you can set up parental controls.
Right, but with the friend code thing, you never have to worry about
You're right.
it, no matter what. No matter
As a parent, you don't have to do anything,
Yeah.
which is what most parents are used to doing anyway.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
And Nintendo doesn't want to get involved in any of that.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to get sucked into that lawsuit if something like that happens.
I think for adults, friend codes suck.
Sure, but like that's
They're
deal with it. Who fucking cares? Like,
yeah.
just
Well,
get
I
over
do
it.
play on Switch. You don't. Their compromise for this is they're going to give people QR codes, so you'll be able to use a QR code in the Nintendo online app to add someone as a friend.
Which is is that the same app or separate from Nintendo Today?
It's separate. Nintendo Today is like their news
I
blog.
need a whole Nintendo section.
Now you need like a whole corner of your phone to hold on Nintendo's apps. Yeah. So anyway, friend codes are back. At this point, I've pretty much made friends with all the people I need to make friends with on Switch anyway. So, and it's not like I'm meeting people playing Mario Kart online where I'm like, hey, let's be buds. Like, my days of that are over. Like, if you're 12 or 13, sure, you still want to find people to play with, but I'm at this point in my life where I don't really need it. So there you go. Those are all the updates on Switch 2 hardware from the last 6 days. Now let's talk about some of the game-related stuff. We made fun of Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour last week because it basically looks like an interactive instruction manual for Switch 2. As it turns out, Matt, it is a lot more than that. I watched the Treehouse stream there. It was like a 30-minute presentation of this game. And I will say this, it is way more involved than I thought it was, having watched the presentation for Switch 2. It still should be free.
Yeah, it still should be included with the system. It's ridiculous.
The other thing, too, is what they're charging for this in other territories. If you just do the conversion, excuse me, it should cost $6 in America. Instead, it's going to cost $10. And people asked Nintendo about it, and Nintendo's like, it's not an exorbitant fee.
Yeah.
Just deal with it, basically.
Oh, so isn't that what you just said?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. Except this is, the perception of this is that it is like the Switch 2's instruction manual, something you normally get for free. So I think the perception...
I mean, Nintendo's saying that does have a sort of, don't you guys have phones?
Right.
Equivalent element to it, like the Diablo thing.
Right.
Which is like, yeah, I mean, I have $10, but I don't want to use it on this.
Yeah,
Like,
well, here's the thing. Like, I think a lot of people would experience this if it were free. In fact, I think most people, if it was downloaded for free on your Switch 2 and you got it,
Sure.
most people would try it.
yeah, I would try it.
How many people do you think are going to play this if it costs $10?
Yeah, I won't.
I won't.
I'm not paying $10.
I mean,
for
Nintendo
this.
might send me a code for this, but if it didn't, I wouldn't pay for it.
No.
To try it. And I don't think most people will either. So, again, though, if you watch...
If I really am that enamored of it, I can just watch the YouTube video.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to get much different out of it.
So, I will say this, like, it does show off, like, a lot of the quote-unquote cool stuff about the new Joy-Con. And there's little, like, tech demos you can play through and mini games that you can play through that basically just show off the functionality of all the things it can do with, like, the 3D Rumble.
Yeah, here's
and...
an HD Rumble thing you'll never feel in an actual game.
No, you're right. Yeah. I think what they're trying to do is convince you that you will feel this stuff, even though you never will. Because, to me, the Switch 1 had the worst force feedback of all three platforms.
It's just weird in the sense that also it's like, it's, just like Astrobot and just like a couple of some of the other stuff that comes bundled with things in the past, like, this is a thing that's supposed to make you feel good that you just bought this hardware.
Right.
It's supposed to make you feel like your purchase was worth it and like, oh, look at all the cool shit this does and I'm going to be in for like such cool stuff coming up. And like, you can't charge for that.
Right.
It's stupid to charge
It
people
is. It's
for
just
that.
really... stupid is the best word to use. I don't know what Nintendo's thinking with this. I don't get it.
I mean, I know you've only got one game
right.
for the launch.
For launch day.
But like,
yeah.
really?
You're going to try to charge us for this other... Maybe
Yeah.
as a make good... For only having one first-party game on launch day, you give this away.
Or maybe as a make good for having to charge hundreds of dollars
Right.
more to many of your core customers.
'Cause I'm
you
sure
just
they're
give
like-
us that thing.
They're going to be like, we had 5 people working on this for 6 months. That's X amount of money in R&D. It's like, just bite the bullet, man. Like, we understand you don't want to bite the bullet on tariffs, and no company is going to.
You'll make it up with the next Kirby game.
Oh, yeah. Or whatever. Like, you'll make it up with Mario Kart. I mean, with that extra $20 that you're asking for Mario Kart now, like, that's not going to offset some of your development costs for this little app thing that you built. It's just so short-sighted and dumb. It just makes Nintendo look cheap and petty when it doesn't need to look cheap and petty. So, again, I will say I was pleasantly surprised by this when I started watching the Treehouse, like, demoing this. It is way more involved than I thought it was. Still, nowhere near involved enough for Nintendo to try to charge $10 for it. So, again, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour is going to cost $10. And then...
That doesn't make me feel very welcome.
No, you're right. And then IGN got a chance to interview Bill Trinan, who is Shigeru Miyamoto's right-hand man and has been for 2 decades now, and interviewed him about Switch 2. He was coy. He would not share still who is making the new Donkey Kong game. Why has that become a thing, Matt, with Nintendo? Why all of a sudden is Nintendo like, we're just not going to tell people who makes our games? Like, are they trying to get people more interested in the games? I don't understand the strategy there.
I don't know.
It's very weird. So anyway, he dodged that when they asked him who was making Donkey Kong Bonanza. He didn't answer that. But what he did answer was that the upgrade games, people were saying, you know, some of the upgraded games for Switch 2 may cost $20, some may cost $10. He clarified that both the Zelda games, both Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, those games will be upgraded to Switch 2 for $10. So my guess is none of them are going to cost more than $10. If they're only going to charge $10 for their 2 big Zelda games, they're probably not going to charge.
Zelda is generally going to be the ceiling.
The high, yeah. And so that's actually a little consoling, I think.
Still ain't buying it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to either.
I mean, I don't want to play these again.
Right, I'm good. I spent a lot of time on these games already.
I've been there, done that.
Yeah, I'm good on that. And then they also shared...
I maybe might get the Kirby one because it's got, like, basically an expansion
in
it.
Yep. That would be about the only one that makes sense. That one they may charge $20 for.
Yeah, I wonder on that. I wonder if that'll be the... Man, what a world where the Kirby the Kirby
Zelda.
update is more than the Zelda update.
Yep.
Truly, a small pink blob of unimaginable power.
Yeah, yep. And then there were a lot of questions after the presentation about the games and the game cards. It seemed to be one of the things people were most confused about. So, first of all, the max cartridge size for a Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge
is... an Hourglass says the Kirby and Mario Party updates are 20.
Yep, that's what I figured.
Because they have content.
Big-time content. Yep. So the max cartridge size for Nintendo Switch 2 is just 64 gigabytes. And they will still taste bad. Nintendo announced that too.
But will they taste bad the same way?
I don't know. But CD Projekt Red shared that the biggest cart is 64 gigabytes. So, folks, you're going to need to get that micro SD card express for your Switch 2 because 64 gigabytes, I mean, that's nothing.
That's not going to fit Call of Duty.
Nope. Or probably Cyberpunk 2077.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. So that's something to think about. Also,
it's not even going to fit Suikoden.
Right. No, you're right. They also announced that some physical Switch 2 games will have dummy cartridges that just act as a key.
Yeah, lots of them will.
Yeah, that you will just, it doesn't even have any data for the game on the cart. You plug it in and it just tells the Switch, okay, you can download this.
Which makes me question, why are you buying these?
Right. What's the point? Well, the point is, the other thing I should mention too is that Nintendo has been adamant that stuff will be clearly labeled. That you will not be fooled.
Yeah, there's a label on the cover that
on the box art.
It's a game card key.
Right. Yeah. So Nintendo's not trying to fool anybody or anything. They're being upfront about it.
They have a capitalized name for it and everything.
Yeah. The good news came yesterday when we found out that the game key cards are not tied to Nintendo accounts. So basically, those game key cards are games that you can loan to somebody, that you can sell to somebody.
Right, but the concern that I always hear about the digital versus physical is that if their servers one day go down, you can never play that game again.
That is true.
You can't get it off the cartridge, it's just gone.
That is true.
So it only solves one of those complaints. I mean, obviously I don't care because I haven't bought a physical game in years. Outside of maybe a couple things I still collect the physical copies of Yakuza and a couple other things.
Things maybe you think are going to be rare.
Yeah, or like I would have bought a definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles X definitive edition. I would have bought like the collector's box of that because I have the collector's box of the other 3.
Right.
But they didn't put one out. Although the collector's box of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 came out months later.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll do one later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's the digital future is coming and you can't run from it, folks.
Nintendo was our last hope. for physical media, and it has given up. Because the other thing that was brought up this week...
They're just too big. Like, the games are too big. Like, you can't fit Elden Ring on a 64-gigabyte cartridge. Like,
yeah.
And you got make those bigger, and you're going to have to charge even more.
Right.
I mean, if the cartridges were holding, 256... maybe you did have an argument for an $80 game at that point.
You're right.
That's a physical media cost.
And it costs more. Yeah. The cards cost more.
Fucking light stick out of the top of the Switch.
Well, the other thing that's going to push people towards digital is that with Switch 2, a lot of physical games cost more than digital games.
This is the biggest thing, I think, that Nintendo is finally bucking the trend of parity pricing. Because for so long, people were so afraid of Walmart and the physical stores not carrying games that they wouldn't... Because digital games should be cheaper. They should always have been cheaper.
Yep.
And now Nintendo's finally doing it. And it's not... And it's funny that they're doing it by just raising the cost of the physical one. It's just like, oh, well... Yeah, we're not going to give you the digital one for less. We're going to make you pay more
for the physical version.
But it's still the first step in not bowing down to the retail.
That's true.
Like big box stuff.
It took some guts to do that.
It did.
But the writing's on the wall for retailers now. I mean, you go into like a Walmart or a Target now, the game sections in those stores are minuscule compared to what they used to be. Best Buy especially has shrunk down its footprint for games in its brick and mortar stores.
Best Buy's stuff is pretty much gone
It's
now.
crazy.
It's mostly toys.
Yeah, and movies are completely gone now.
He has no movies anymore.
None. So the writing's been on the wall for a while, sadly, for physical media. I'm fighting it tooth and nail. I still buy physical games all the time. But I'm going to lose. That's just the truth of the matter. So anyway, that's the updates on all the software. Well, actually, not all the software. So there are no achievements in Nintendo Switch 2 games, but just like the Switch 1, Nintendo is totally okay with third-party publishers and developers creating their own achievement systems inside.
I mean, Nintendo does that too.
Yeah. Not all of them, but some of Nintendo's games have...
All the Xenoblades have achievements inside
them. I think Animal Crossing had them, if I remember.
Maybe? I can't remember.
I thought it did.
I blocked all that out.
Yeah. So anyway, there aren't any achievements still on Nintendo systems, even though there are trophies and achievements on PlayStation and Xbox,
Didn't
respectively.
Tears of the Kingdom have an achievement?
I think it did, yeah. Yep, Nintendo bakes them in, but it just won't make it across the board like a thing that every developer has to do.
I would argue that it doesn't really matter. I mean, who cares anymore?
I don't care at all.
I haven't thought about that in forever.
I haven't looked at my gamer score, my trophies, or my achievements in years. I just don't care.
I don't even know where to look.
A lot of people do, though, like big time.
Some people, but like everyone. I used to. Like we used to
first
1,000 out of
4 or 5 years. Yeah.
We that's like half the reason my online group back in the 360 days was on every night was getting like multiplayer achievements with each other,
right?
And all this shit. And like now, you can't even find them anymore. I don't know where. I don't even know where to look for someone's gamer score anymore.
It used to be front and center. Yeah. So even the systems themselves, the consoles themselves, have started to downplay it. So anyway, no achievements on Switch 2. Game sizes are small. Mario Kart World is 23.4 gigabytes. Donkey Kong is 10 gigabytes.
Wow.
Nintendo just filed a patent like a week ago. It has found some crazy way, kind of like what was called the Kraken or whatever for PlayStation. Nintendo has found some crazy compression routine for 4K textures. And so that's what I think we're seeing here. But yeah, 23 gigs.
Could you talk to Activision?
Right. Get Call of Duty down to like 150 gigabytes maybe? That'd be great. So file sizes are pretty small, so maybe the hard drive size isn't as big a deal as maybe we think it is. And then we found out that the From Software exclusive game that is coming to Switch 2, the Duskbloods, is actually owned by From Software and not owned by Nintendo, which is rare. Usually Nintendo, when it works with a partner, other than like Bayonetta in this game, usually Nintendo owns that IP. Not in this case. From Software owns it, although now that we found out that it's a multiplayer game, does anybody really care?
Not in the Dark Souls groups I'm in. I'll tell you that. I honestly did not expect the backlash to the degree this got. Like, I thought there are people upset that it's multiplayer focused, but I didn't expect such universal fury.
I think why you're getting that effect is because this is a double whammy.
They have to buy a Switch to...
Well, actually, that makes it a triple whammy. Yeah. The double whammy was Night Rain first, because Night Rain's coming out, and most From Software fans aren't into Night Rain because it's a multiplayer game. Then they think for a moment they're getting at least the spiritual successor to Bloodborne. As it turns out, it's not that. It's a multiplayer game, and if they want to play it, to your point, they're going to have to buy another piece of hardware. That's the triple whammy. So I am not surprised at all that From Software fans are not enthused by the Duskbloods. Even as somebody who enjoyed Elden Ring Night Rain in the beta, I'm not enthused by this. Like, why does this exist? I'll just play Night Rain if I want to play something like this on a better console where everything looks better and sounds better. So, I don't know what the idea was with this.
I like the aesthetic.
Yeah,
but like, I don't like what the game is.
It reeks of desperation to me, of Nintendo being like, look, we got to get some big third party something going on here,
and maybe like. That is very funny. Like the jetpack shot is just that makes me laugh almost every time.
There he goes.
It looks like an old Godzilla movie.
It does,
like,
yeah.
Like the guy on wires is like it's like barely holding steady, you know.
Or Lost in Space when all the robots looked like that.
The I don't know. I mean, again, I wonder if if them owning it is just sort of was part of their whole thing. It was like, we look what happened to Bloodborne.
Right.
Like, we're not doing that again.
Yeah.
You know, Nintendo might have been just like, all right, we got it. We
Yeah.
don't really want this anyway. Like,
I mean, there's probably
what is Nintendo going to do this if From Software doesn't do anything?
Nothing.
You know, like,
not like Nintendo's going to make the sequel to this
No.
or anything. Yeah, it's not all that surprising.
or you could just make a sequel to this and put Kirby in it. Like, fuck it. Like, I would play that. I would 100% play Kirby. Kirby
Sold.
eats the Duskbloods. Like, I would do that.
That'll keep Sakurai busy. So anyway, that's there's a dinosaur in this game. What is going on here? Like, it's a very
monsters.
strange game.
It has a lot of Castlevania in it.
Yeah.
I think like where Castlevania just mixes anything
The
and everything from
avant-garde.
any kind of like weird thing into it. It's like, are there dinosaurs? Yes. Are there giant bulls? Yes. Are there aliens? Probably. Is Medusa here? Yes. Yeah. It's like, if you can think of it, it's here.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the latest update on the Duskbloods, which is a Switch 2 exclusive for now. We'll see how long it stays a Switch 2 exclusive because, again, Nintendo doesn't own it, so you would assume there's some kind of a deal there for a year, 18 months, or something like that to keep this exclusive to Switch 2. I don't think people are going to be crying hoping that it does come to other consoles because, again, they have Elden Ring Nightblood, or they're going to have it here very soon. And then the final tidbit about software, and we may have mentioned this last week, but I wasn't 100% sure, is that 120 Switch games have issues running on Switch 2. Did we talk about this last week?
A little bit.
Okay. I thought we might have, but
Anything of note is going to get fixed, I'm sure.
yeah, I mean, most of the games that don't work are just crap anyway. There's those crappy eShop games that we laugh at all the time.
Most of the only things of note I saw were some of the Bethesda stuff, like machine game, like Wolfenstein and one of the Dooms has startup problems or something. Like I'm sure they'll fix that.
They should be able to patch that.
You don't want that not working on the new Nintendo console. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah. So now that we've had a full week to kind of digest the whole Switch 2, I mean, the other thing I should add too is they showed a ton of Mario Kart World this week. They literally streamed, I think, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours of Mario Kart World or something insane, and the game is freaking insane. It is, I mean, to say it's going to be the best Mario Kart ever is like a joke. Like, it's so far beyond being the best Mario Kart ever. Some of the modes I was pleasantly surprised by, like I didn't think I would care about them. The knockout mode looks like the best way to play Mario Kart going forward, where you just have a string of races that just keep going, and 4 racers get eliminated every time. So the last 4 guys in every race get cut, and then it keeps dwindling down until there's just 4 of you for the last race. That looked like a ton of fun. Like, just some of the ideas.
It's sort of like that, like F-Zero 99.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that for sure.
Just smaller scale.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like the 24 races.
And if you're way behind, you lose and you go play another match.
Yeah, you just start another match. Yeah. And there was a lot of modes that they talked about like that where I was like, oh, wow, okay. Like, you know, it's been 11 years since the last Mario Kart. Did they spend 11 years making this? Obviously not.
No.
I mean, I don't know how you could spend 11 years making a Mario Kart game, but they definitely spent way more time on this game than they have any prior Mario Kart, without a doubt. So, is it worth $80? That's for you to decide. It's definitely worth more than most Mario Kart games. How much monetary value there is for that for you, that's all you. So, I was very pleasantly surprised by Mario Kart World watching the Treehouse demos that they showed. And if you didn't watch them, or you're like, oh, Shane's crazy, go watch them. They're all curated to SIFTD. Just go to the game page for Mario Kart World, and they're all right there where you can watch them. You can decide for yourself. But I was really impressed with it. And then Donkey Kong Bonanza. Really the only big revelation about this game, other than Pauline. Did you see that? Pauline is in it, which is like the girl that you rescued in the original arcade Donkey Kong game.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I kind of expected that.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool, though.
Now that she's back in continuity after Odyssey, it's sort of like, why wouldn't you put her in?
Yep. And so she's returning for this. I don't know if he's rescuing her or if she's a playable character.
In the key art that they used, I think was that South Korea had that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the key art, it looks like she's enjoying herself.
Yeah.
Like, hanging on to him.
Right.
Like, for whatever they're doing. So I imagine.
It looks like she's at least like a partner.
Yeah. I mean, I think they've sort of hit the point where like, you know, all the protagonists of Mario stuff are pretty much friendly with one another. So I imagine this. Maybe she's not super interested in going on whatever this adventure is, but I don't think she dislikes him.
Yeah.
You know, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably why he has more expression to him now, is because he's going to have to relate to other characters that are not gorillas.
Right. No, you're right. That's a big reason why they changed his face, would be my guess. And then we had questions about how destructive everything was last week. Apparently, it basically, you can drill down as far as you want until you get to a base. So you can go down like 4 or 5 levels into the world before they're like, okay, that's as far as we're going to let you go down. And then as far as destroying things on a horizontal plane, there are metal plates that control where you can and can't destroy. So
yeah, that's what I thought.
So
metal is usually your
cue.
breaking point. Yeah.
Yep. And honestly, if you watch the demos of this, again, those are on SIFTD as well if you want to check them out. You can really destroy pretty much everything. Like, one of the demos that they did for this, they did like 3, I think, across the week. One of them was pretty much, we're just going to show you how much destruction you can get away with. And I was pleasantly surprised by that. The rest of the game, what they show was pretty much what I've expected so far. Just looks like a solid 3D platformer. Minimal collecting, it looks like. We'll see if that ends up being the case, but so far what I've seen, it looks like collecting is going to be kept mostly to a minimum. So those were kind of the 2 big games that they did show and kind of my impressions of them. And then there's
not that they had anything else to show.
Right. And then there's another Mario Kart Direct coming April 17th or something. Like later on this month, there's a separate Direct just for Mario Kart World after they showed it for like 5 hours this week. So
yeah, to be fair, most people didn't know that happened.
Yeah.
Like
what, the Treehouse stuff you mean?
Yeah, the Direct is for the normies.
Yeah. And the Treehouse is for people like us.
It's a YouTube link to send to your friend who has kids.
Right. So a week later, more excited or less excited for Switch 2 after all the new stuff that you've learned?
Oh, less. If
less
anything.
Excited?
Probably the same, but really, I mean, I
try to take the pricing out of it if you can, which is hard.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not just the pricing. I mean, the pricing is high even without the tariffs, but like, it's also just like there's nothing I want to play on this thing until Metroid, and we don't have a date for Metroid.
Yep.
So the only reason I don't want to buy a Switch 2 right now.
Yeah.
The only reason I would buy one is because I'd be worried that I wouldn't be able to get hold of one when I do want to play Metroid.
When you do want one, right?
So like I will probably try to get the bundle with Mario Kart just because I don't want to pay $80 for Mario Kart.
Yeah.
There are games I would pay $80 for. Like I'd probably pay $80 for The Witcher 4, but I ain't paying $80 for Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Like,
If you don't love it, it's just a
I
hard
don't love
sell.
Mario Kart.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm kind of annoyed paying $50 for it. If I'm honest, but that's at least a reasonable bundle with
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't care about Mario Kart, really. This does look like the most interesting Mario Kart since the N64 to me.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't really liked a lot of the directions they took a lot of them.
Double Dash and all those different gimmicks that
so
they
much
had.
meaningless gimmicks, but your gimmick here is, like, it's giant and huge in scope, and there's all this crazy shit, and you can drive between everything. Like, I like that. Like, that sounds really good. I mean, basically, Forza Horizon meets Mario Kart. Yeah, I'm kind of in for that. I'm not $80 in for it, but I'm like, I'd like to play it.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to buy a $450 red, $500 after taxes system just to play that and wait around for how many months before Metroid shows up, which at least is getting
it's not like you want to play the third-party games on Switch
like,
too.
Nothing else.
It's all about first-party.
Nothing else in that Direct is interesting to me because I'm going to play every single other game in that Direct on another system, except the Duskbloods, but that's next year if I even want to play that.
It may not be that hard to get a Switch 2 at launch.
Yeah, I
because
guess
between
not.
the pricing and, to your point, if people don't love Mario Kart,
I think Nintendo fans though are savvy enough to know that like if you can get it,
the bundle,
get it.
Yeah,
not just the bundle, but it's like me, I want to play Metroid
something later. Yeah,
and like I assume Metroid launches like October, November. Who knows if you're gonna be able to get a Switch 2?
You're right. Yeah.
Who knows if Nintendo will even be sending stuff to America?
You're right.
By then.
No, you're right.
Razer shut down all their product sales in America this morning. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. So I don't really want a Switch 2 right now. I want one to play Metroid as best I can. I kind of want to play Xenoblade Chronicles X at 60 frames a second.
Right.
Like that would be interesting. I would like that. I'm still playing that game.
Mm-hmm.
You see Vic Lucas give that a 9.5 out of 10?
No, I did not.
That is, people, I mean, I like that game, but I wouldn't give it a 9.5. But like, I am stunned by how much people love that game all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Because it did not get reception like that.
Yeah, it really didn't.
On the Wii U.
No, it didn't. No.
It
also ran like crap.
It ran like crap, and it was a lot more convoluted with the gamepad, and everything streamlined in a much better way, and you don't have to grind forever. But like, I don't know. Like that's not really, and like that, and that's really the only game that I would be interested in playing running better. Because the other, I don't, maybe Kirby. I don't care about Mario Party. I don't.
Most people obviously care about the Zelda games.
Yeah, but I don't want to play. I don't want to play those
because those were notorious for having bad frame rates.
Oh yeah, I mean, I certainly would like to see them running like that
for like an hour.
Yeah, but I don't want to pay $10 for it.
Yeah, me either. And I don't want to play the whole thing again either. So anyway,
no, I'm not super excited about this. I don't want to, I mean, maybe predictable because I'm not the biggest Nintendo fan in the world, but really, this really is the worst first-party launch lineup since the Dreamcast.
Well, yeah,
like it's terrible.
It's even worse than the N64, and that's saying something. Like that's freaking crazy. So yeah, I hear you. I mean, here's the thing: there's enough hardcore Nintendo fans to buy that launch allotment, no problem.
I would think so.
Yeah, and then there's a few stragglers like us that'll pick up the crumbs or whatever. So anyway, you're right though. I think you'll have a better chance of getting it at launch.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because it's like right now people are revolting against Nintendo.
Yeah, even minus the tariffs, like ignore that and like people. I mean those live streams, like just the chat was just
insane.
Oh, just people screaming lower the price for like 4 hours.
I know. They should have been replying back. Call your congressman. Call your congressman.
Well,
call your congressman.
No, most of those people were talking about the game prices.
Oh, really?
Most of the people meant the $80.
Oh, interesting.
And then that's also
again people acting like the world's ending over $10.
I mean, $10 is a lot for someone sometimes. Like I get it. Like and it's like for what? Like there's nothing in. I mean, I make the thing about inflation. I paid $89.99 for Chrono Trigger in 1995, and that's like $160 today.
Yeah.
You could argue that the economy was better then, but I'll say this: I was not even 20 yet, and that was a ton of money for me to buy that game at that time.
Well, you got to realize, Matt, at that point, minimum wage was $3.25 an hour.
No, it was $5.25 at that point.
Wait, what year are you talking about?
95.
No, I actually just looked this up because I tried to figure out what I was making.
Might have been different in California then, because I made
I'm talking Pennsylvania.
I made $5.25 an hour at my video store job that summer.
Yeah, I'm talking about Pennsylvania. Okay. It was $3.
I mean, that's what it was before.
That's 3 hours of work just to pay for a game. At that point, sure.
The first job I did was at the arcade comic shop. Trading card store porn rental place. That I was paid $3 an hour under the table.
Yeah, under the table.
Yeah, which I mostly took. I mean, the owners didn't want to do paperwork. I mostly just took it as comic book trade. That's why I have basically every important early '90s comic. Like that's how I got Nightfall and the Death of Superman, and all. It was just I got paid in comic books.
Yeah. Let's check in with you guys and see what y'all are saying now that we're a week out from the big Switch 2 unveiling. If you have something to say, go ask SIFTD Games. Retro Modern Gamer says unless scalpers scoop up the rest of them. But here's the thing, like, scalpers could get burned big time.
Yeah, it's real risky to try that on this one, I think. I mean, they got burned on the PS5 Pro as well, and there wasn't even any kind of economic turmoil at the time.
I got burned on the PlayStation Portal handheld for the 30th anniversary edition. Like, I bought it. I was trying to buy the 30th anniversary PS5 Pro. I struck out on that, but I had spent so much time on it that I was like, I gotta get something. Yeah. So I got the Portal handheld.
I did try to get one of those for you.
Oh, really?
That day I did log on to try to get in, and there was just no way.
Wow, I appreciate that. Wow. So
I knew. I mean, not that you weren't going to screw it up or something. It was like, just one more
people trying.
One more person trying to get through the algorithm.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But
I appreciate that.
Nothing.
Yeah. So I got the Portal instead. I ended up losing money on the Portal. It was like $240. I ended up, my wife sold it on her eBay channel for like $230. Mm-hmm. And after tax, I lost like $40 or $50 on that stupid ass Portal. I'm like, so I wasted all my time, and then I ended up losing money on that as well. So yeah, my what I was getting at is that scalpers may not look at Switch 2 as like a big opportunity to get rich.
No, especially because you don't know how much the thing's going to cost
right.
at any given moment.
Right.
So like, you paid this much, and all of a sudden, what if it's $700 at launch?
Yeah.
Because of the tariffs, and then the tariff thing gets resolved, and all of a sudden it's $450 again.
You're stuck with a $700 console. Good.
I mean, I'm not gonna cry for you, Argentina. There, but it's like, it's just like I wouldn't take that chance. I wouldn't try that, especially considering the bulk these people buy all the time. It's like, it feels like you're setting yourself up for disaster.
Vincent says, "Would you rather have 1 game a month or 4 games at launch and then nothing until Q4?"
I would rather have games I care about.
Yeah, I'd rather have all the games at launch. I can choose when to play them then.
Yeah, at launch I would probably pick, but also like, what are the games? What are the
games?
What are the 1 game a month?
Yeah, what
are
are
the
the games?
Mario Kart game I don't care about, a Donkey Kong game I don't care about, and then what?
Right.
Metroid's in there somewhere down the road. But there's 1 game I want to play on this fucking system.
Yeah, and you don't even, there's no release date for it.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is, I would rather just get them right at launch, because then I have control. I can choose when I want to play them. If I want to wait 2 months to play Metroid Prime 4, I can. If I want to wait 4 or 5 months to play Donkey Kong Bonanza, I can. I'm always going to choose the situation where I'm in control and I have the power.
And if there were 4 games at launch, one of them would probably be interesting to me.
Right. That's a good point, too.
Because one of them would probably be Metroid.
Right. I mean, I think Metroid's done.
Yeah,
I think they could put that out right now if they wanted to, and they're just not, because of what
spacing it out.
They're doing exactly what Vincent said. Because a lot of people think like Vincent. It's better to just space them out and put 1 every month, but it's not better for the consumer to do that. It's not. It never will be. And I don't know if it's better for business. I've never seen data on that.
It also makes more sense for Nintendo to do that, I think, because you don't have like so many other AAA things drop to like $40 in 3 months, and Nintendo doesn't do that.
Nintendo can say to itself, though, if we put too much out at launch, then we're going to cannibalize the sales of our own games.
Well, that's what I mean. Is like you're literally getting, by launching them spaced out, you're basically saying, we're going to get the people interested in these games at full price no matter what by doing that. Because then no one has any reason to wait to buy Mario Kart at $40 in 3 months, because that's not going to happen.
Right, yeah.
So you get all your full price sales out of the way, and then here's another full price game to buy a month later or 2 months later or in October or whatever. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know.
It's better for Nintendo, but it's not better for the consumer.
The problem is not the spacing, and the problem is that there's nothing interesting on the schedule other than Metroid. Like, I don't give a shit about Tomodachi Life.
Right.
I don't,
most people don't.
Maybe other people do, but I don't know.
I don't either.
Like, I kind of care about Pokemon Z to A. Like, I'm sort of interested in that. If you charge me $80 for that, I probably am not going to buy that either. Like, I don't know. I just don't know.
Yep. Erebus says, like Matt, or Swan Senpai says, $10 is 4 Prime subs. No, it's not. It's actually way more than that. Well, actually, no, you're right. Yeah, it is 4. Yeah. Erebus Jones says, like Matt, the machine is way too expensive and there is nothing to play. I can wait, I think, until next year, if at all. If you have kids, the if at all thing, I think, is a joke. You're going to eventually get a Switch 2. Raphael Michael says, I can understand a game being too expensive in the context as a kid, but as an adult complaining about not affording video games, maybe you should not be looking at them to begin with and sort out your situation. I mean, that's a priorities thing, like being an adult and not spending your money on stuff you shouldn't be spending it on. The Legacy says they should have made a non-portable Switch 2. It would have a lower barrier to entry. What do you think he's trying to say there? What's the barrier to entry currently?
I mean, if you have a non-portable Switch 2, it does not have controls on it, and it doesn't have the screen, and it's part of the, way fewer parts.
It could be cheaper.
Probably be cheaper.
Yeah.
I would have bought that.
That might be an option. That may be something Nintendo's looking at, honestly.
Yeah, I would buy the Nintendo Brick.
The console, or whatever the hell they would call it. Yeah. Yep.
It's not a Switch. It's a this.
Then it's just a
Nintendo this. It's just one thing.
Emperor Dread. I'm in Europe, so I think I'm okay to get a Switch 2 without the problems and be excited with it, but there's 0% chance I'd get one if I was in North America with the tariff baggage. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough decision to make. Ashes says that's bad business. Why wouldn't you separate your release? Yeah, we said that. We said it's smart for Nintendo, bad for consumers. That's exactly what we said. ETH Demon, somehow the Switch 2 is getting Yakuza 0 at the English voice track. Yeah. Yep. Too Medic. Dreamcast had a massive launch, but didn't spread it out, and they regretted it. I mean, Dreamcast had a lot of games at launch. I wouldn't call it a massive launch.
And remember, I'm saying Japanese Dreamcast launch. That's
it's
the
like
worst
Godzilla
launch ever. It was Godzilla, a Mahjong game, and I think Blue Thunder, I can't remember the fake ass horror game.
Oh, Lost in Blue?
No, it was Blue
Planet Blue.
No, Blue.
I know your Protocol Blue. I know what you're talking
You know what I'm
about.
talking about.
I can see it in my mind. The screenshots.
It was like Wish.com, Leon, and all that.
Right.
It's all very bright for some reason.
Yeah.
Blue something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I mean, it wasn't just.
I got a Japanese Dreamcast for Christmas that year. It was nothing. I got Godzilla with it. It was nothing with it. And then the day after Christmas, Sonic Adventure came out.
Yeah.
And I went to the import store and bought that. And I'm like, oh, that was amazing. But that was a month after the system came out.
Yeah, which is crazy that they didn't have Sonic ready for launch.
I do wish I still had the box for that, though. The Japanese box was all orange with like photos of the CEO of Sega, because that was the ad campaign, was the CEO being like chased by the system. Yeah. And like that was amazing. It's like your cutting edge video game system is just a bright orange box with a picture of a Japanese businessman on it. I guess your whole fucking
salary man.
And remember, the reason it wasn't anything to do with the lack of launch, or putting all the eggs in the basket. The problem with the Dreamcast in America was that EA didn't make games for it.
Yeah,
that was an
back
era
then.
Where
That made a big difference.
If Madden wasn't on your system, you
really had no chance. Even though NFL 2K, everyone embraced it, but it wasn't big enough.
But it wasn't Madden.
Yep.
And even though it was better than Madden.
NBA 2K was better than NBA
100%.
Live as well. Yep. AJ, the Legend Watson asks, will this be the last Mario Kart game and simply be updated via DLC? Yeah, I think this may actually be like the last Mario Kart for like 15 years.
The end of history.
I mean, I think that seriously might be true.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be kind of a cool... I mean, Mario... it seems like they are kind of... For these, like, kind of spin-off, ensemble titles, like, using the Smash Brothers Ultimate, like, model is not a bad idea.
No, I mean, I'm wondering at this point if, like...
I mean, it's also basically what they did with 8, right?
Right.
Like,
I think that the Smash may just be Smash Brothers just up-res for Switch 2.
I think that's what it should be.
I think it's what they should do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Don't start over.
Yeah, why would you do it all over again? Like... Add some extra polys to your character models.
What are we, The Sims? Like, stop it.
Seriously.
You've already built this crazy, great thing. Just, like, keep adding on to it.
Yeah. Retro Modern Gamer says, do you think the price of Switch 2 and its game prices, parents will tell kids your Switch 1 is good enough?
I think that may happen.
I mean, if it's $600, hell yeah, they're telling their kids it's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly had some of my casual friends being like, is that price right? I'm like, yeah, it's $450.
Yeah.
It's $450.
And wait till they see 600 or whatever it ends up being. Erebus says, I'm a dad, and I'm not getting him, I think, a €500 games console. He'll have to lump his Switch 1 until he gets his own job and starts paying his own way.
I mean, it is a huge jump. It's 150 over,
Blue Stinger. That's what the game was.
Was.
Thanks, chat. Ashes in Towley.
Towley
1985.
I own that game, and I never would have remembered. It's in there. It's in the closet somewhere.
Mirko Supreme says, everyone already paid up when Nintendo raised their price on Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom, which it wasn't even their best-selling product. Getting upset at another increase for Mario Kart, their actual best-selling product on a new console, doesn't make sense to me. Maybe the vouchers was the difference for people. Maybe.
Maybe. I think it's just like part of it's like people don't like anything going up in price. Mm-hmm. But part of it, I think, is also that like that game didn't cost them more to make than like Tears of the Kingdom.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
But they're charging more for it for exactly that. It's their best-selling game.
Mm-hmm.
They know they can charge you that much for that, and there is a feeling of like, what are you gonna do, asshole, about it? And like nobody likes that.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
I said
even if you can afford it easily, nobody likes that.
No, I hear you. There's definitely some hubris going on here with Nintendo.
There are games I'd pay $80 for, like I said, but like. When that happens, even if I was a Mario Kart fan, there's an element of that makes me not want to play ball.
Yeah. Them. See, I'm looking at Mario Kart as like I will literally probably spend 250, 300 hours playing it. So to me, like $80 is like, okay.
Right. But then you turn around and they are giving it to you for $50 in that bundle, which is like...
believe me, I'm going to try to get the bundle if I can. I'm not an idiot. Swan Senpai says, Switch 2, €530, PS5 disc with Astrobot, €500. Yeah. Nephews are getting PS5 for Christmas. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would do the same thing.
It's going to be a lot easier to get the PS5.
Yeah, seriously. And then Dreylox finally says, one of the things that still shocks me is that the Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild doesn't come with the DLC included. That is idiotic.
That is an excellent
I agree
point.
with you 1,000%, Dreylox.
Yeah.
That is really freaking dumb.
There is no worse deal than cross-generation games on Nintendo. Like even Sony's better about it.
Yeah.
It's like when Sony is less nickel and dimey, like you are fucking
And it's already a license to print money.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just by its nature, you're already getting one over on the consumer.
Right, and they're all... and Nintendo's more flush with cash than the other two combined.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's... I don't know. It's not sleazy because we all see what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it's just like, really?
It's
like,
transparent sleeves.
It's like that one petty ass friend who instantly sends you the Venmo request.
Yeah, as soon as you walk out of the restaurant.
To it. Like, fuck you. Like, dude, like...
Or like the person that, like, if you play poker with them in a house game, as soon as it's over, they're like scraping the money and putting it into their pockets before everyone's even like leaned back or whatever. Yeah, it's the same deal. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest and the greatest on Nintendo Switch 2. Stay tuned because there are more updates to come. Definitely as far as talking about the price of the console with the tariffs and all that kind of stuff.
Let me look right now.
At what? Because
just in case, like something Nintendo Switch caught fire and doesn't know what day it is anymore. I don't know.
And now it's $8,000. Oh, it's freaking crazy. Well, Matt looks that up. We're going to go to our break. It's time to hear a word from our awesome sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. And a big thanks to LS Cream. LS Cream is a Canadian company that has decided to keep supporting us here on GameFace despite all the madness that is happening. However, as a Canadian company, they can definitely use your help, so please go to creamls.com/sifted. Please use that URL if you can. If you go there, you'll be able to figure out where to buy LS Cream anywhere. Well, not anywhere. Apparently, there are even some territories in Canada where you can't get it yet. And Pennsylvania apparently is a dead spot. But for the most part, you can get LS Cream pretty much everywhere. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted. There's a store locator there where you can figure out how to get it locally, or you can learn and find out how to buy it online and get it delivered right to your doorstep. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted. Long live LS Cream. And with that, it's time to get to our lone review for GameFace episode 428. We're going to talk about a game called South of Midnight. The game, I think, just launched this morning.
The non-early access launched this morning.
I did pay the $9 for the early access for South of Midnight. I did that days ago, so it was totally worth it for me.
Yeah, the early access started on Thursday night, I think.
Yeah, and it worked out. For me, it was totally worth it to be able to get the game into the show on its launch day here for you guys on GameFace. This is a game by Compulsion Games. They made We Happy Few. If you remember, they were bought right around the time We Happy Few came out, which was like this crazy, like, drug-fueled, psychedelic, bad acid trip game. That's the best way I could describe We Happy Few. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like Clockwork Orange mixed with, like, I don't even know what. So this game is a pretty big departure for Compulsion Games. It is essentially a straight-up action-adventure game. And we'll get to sort of the details on how it's designed here in a minute.
That's my only reservation on this game. Was I really didn't like We Happy Few very much.
I didn't either. I mean, it was interesting.
To the point that I saw the original trailer for this, I'm like, oh, this looks really cool.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, them?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
This is a gigantic departure from We Happy Few. And maybe Compulsion realized, like, we need to, like, change our tact a little bit here and start heading off in a new direction. And that is definitely what they've done with South of Midnight. This game is available, as you can see in the upper third there, for PC and Xbox Series. It is also on Game Pass, as we just mentioned, and it is live on Game Pass right now. But this game is set in the Deep South in Louisiana. There's a really bad hurricane coming. And a single mom and her daughter named Hazel Flood, they're living in a trailer right on the bayou. The entire trailer gets whisked away by a flood. So basically, Hazel leaves the house to go check on the neighbors because her mom is like, hey, go check on these people. They may not be able to get out. Let's make sure everybody gets out before the hurricane hits. So she goes to her neighbors' doors and knocks on the doors and checks on them and makes sure that they're okay or whatever. Well, while she's doing that, the floodwaters rise like crazy, and she returns to her house just in time to see it whisked away, and with her mom in it. So she is a track star she was in high school. She talks about it in the opening scenes of the game, and she tries to run along the river and try to keep up with the house. She cannot do it. Ultimately, what happens, though, is she comes back, and one of her neighbors is her grandmother, who she and her mom have been estranged from for years. And she never knew why her mom didn't like her mom or why they didn't stay in contact or whatever. But with her mom whisked away, she's like, this is my only chance to figure out what's going on. Get some help from my grandma if I can. So her grandma is rich and lives in this like crazy mansion in the middle of the bayou. She goes and talks to her, and the grandma is like, oh, we're not in a hurry or whatever, and like touches her arm, and she falls asleep in her grandma's mansion. She goes into this crazy dream state where she basically experiences a flashback of her mother and her father when she was a child. She doesn't know what has happened to her dad. Like, she knows her dad isn't there, obviously, but she is not sure, like, whether he left the family, whether he died or something like that. And so that flashback gives her a glimpse into what happened with her father. She wakes up and she's like, oh my God, like I was just transported to this other world or whatever. She's freaked out. She thinks that her grandmother, basically when she touched her, sent her into this other state or whatever. So she doesn't trust her grandmother anymore, and she leaves. But before she leaves, she finds these things in the attic, these two like hooky looking devices that was in her grandmother's attic, and leaves. And she figures out eventually that she has been transformed into this person who can see what are called strands. And basically, strands are these things that are floating in the air that only weavers can see. And weavers, using the tools that she finds in her grandmother's attic, she can use those tools to weave the threads, basically, and control this other reality that most people can't see, that only weavers like her can see. And as it turns out, she's not the only weaver. I'm not going to spoil anything by explaining all that, but she's not the only one. And so she gets these devices that help her manipulate this alternate reality, basically. And all the enemies in this game are like woven together from these threads. So while you're fighting them, they kind of like, they're pretty cool, actually. They're made of like all these little threads that come apart and then come back together as you fight them and as they animate. Like, some of the animation for the enemies in this game is pretty freaking awesome. But her devices can unravel them. So once you fight them and you get them down until they're weakened, they go into this state where you can walk up and unravel them. She walks up to them, uses her special devices, and basically sucks the threads into the device and eliminates the enemies. And that's kind of the basic premise of the game. She is trying to find her mom. She's on the quest to find her mother. And that's really the goal of the entire game. And at certain points, you'll find the house, and you think that you've rescued mom, and it's a red herring, and you actually haven't. You have to keep continuing on your quest. This game keeps all the Southern vernacular and dialect. There's like the script is written in Ebonics. The voice work in this, the opening scenes in this are literally some of the worst voice work I've ever heard. Like, the opening scene that sets up the whole thing with her and her mom in their trailer, the voice acting is terrible. And I'm like, oh my God, is this whole game going to be like this? And then it's not. It ends up having incredible voice acting for the entire rest of the game. In fact, I was so taken aback by this that last night I went back and watched the beginning of the game again to make sure I was right. And I was. Like, the first 2 or 3 scenes of this game, the voice acting is abysmal. And then something just snaps and it's great.
What's different about it?
It's, you can tell they're reading off a script. Like, blatantly, you can tell they're reading off a script. But then again, like, as the game goes on, it gets absolutely incredible, and the voice acting is awesome. And I like that they've included the dialect, the local vernacular, the Ebonics. I think it's pretty ridiculous how so many writers write stories as if that stuff doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. Particularly video game scripts, it feels like, are written in that way. I don't know if it's because you don't want to tie it to a particular region and alienate people. I don't know why they do it that way. In this one, they just went for it, and it's great. It really sucks you into the South in a lot of different ways. And for somebody who doesn't live in America and doesn't know what the American South is like, this is a pretty good representation of it. There's the undertones of racism that you're always going to have in the South, but there's also those moments where there's like liberation that gives you like this good feeling. Or when you come across good people in this environment where you assume everyone's bad. There are moments like that in this game that are pretty consistent and make a big impact with the player. At least they did for me anyway. As you play through the game, you come across these memories. So she had that one memory about her mom in her grandmother's house. That keeps happening as the game goes on. As you'll come across big fights, and if you finish them, when the fight is over, you will be shown a cutscene that shows something of the family history from Hazel's family. That shows why her mom is who she is, why her mom is estranged from her mother, her grandmother, what happened to the dad. There's a element of almost like the Underground Railroad in some of those cutscenes, where the family is being persecuted and they're trying to escape with the young daughter when Hazel's just like a 3 or 4-year-old. And so she learns through those flashbacks what's going on with her family. It gives her a new perspective on her grandmother, who you're seeing right now in the B-roll, and her mother. And again, I don't want to spoil too much about that, because to me, that really ends up becoming kind of the story behind the game, is the family stuff, and not necessarily just rescuing the mom. And as she goes through the game, she'll come across like some of her mother's things, and these are like big iconic moments where you come up to almost like a spider web, and one of her mom's belongings will be in the middle of the spider web. And when you touch it, it sends off this like crazy process where you end up in a chase sequence, and there's some demon that chases you. And if you make it all the way through the chase sequence, you go to this tree where you purify your horrible feelings. So as you're watching these memories of your family when you were young, and your dad and what happened to him and what happened to your mom, you have this magical bottle that after you watch it, you seal the bad memories in the bottle. And at a certain point, the bottle gets full, and that's when you initiate the chase sequence, and you get chased by a demon or something. And then eventually, at the end of the chase sequence, there's this tree that you basically uncork the bottle and unload all your bad feelings into this tree. And that's kind of like the loop for the game generally, how it works. As you go through the world, you fight enemies, you make progress, you platform. There's a lot of platforming in this game. As you make progress, you eventually come to bigger battles. You win those battles, and you get to watch a bad memory. You bottle up that memory. When the bottle is full, eventually you get to a chase sequence where you get chased, and you get to a tree where you open your bottle and unleash all the bad feelings into the tree, which presumably takes the bad feelings and the bad memories off of your shoulders. And that's kind of the plot and the basic premise for the game. It is a throwback. This is like an action adventure from like 2008 where everything is linear. There's a couple areas where it's kind of like Doom, where you'll find a path that branches off and maybe you'll find a collectible at the end of it. But for the most part, this game is just one long cattle chute that you run through and platform through and fight through. There's really no confusion on where you need to go, but even with that, if you click the right stick, it will show you like the pathway. There's really no resistance as far as figuring out where you need to go and what you need to do. It's just actually doing it, which provides a resistance. And once you learn the combat system in this, there's not much of that either. One of the big criticisms I've seen of this game is the gameplay, the combat, and the traversal. Some of the traversal is a little bit Uncharted too, where you're just like wall climbing on these handholds, and all the handholds are clearly labeled with a specific color so you know where you can go. It's almost like autopilot platforming in a lot of ways, as far as like the climbing stuff is concerned. The combat itself, though, like I'm kind of surprised that people have been criticizing it. It's not Dark Souls or Elden Ring or anything like that, but it has like all the prerequisites that you would want from a combat system in an action game. It has dodging and perfect dodges that open up enemies for attacks. You have your melee attacks. You have magic attacks that you get as you play the game through over time. You get new additions to your magic arsenal. The combat, the way it works, there's basically just one attack button. It's just the X button, or eventually when it comes out for PlayStation, it'll be the square button. And you just basically jam that, and you can unlock combos and things like that in a very simple skill tree if you want to. But once you've beaten an enemy down to where their health is almost gone, they go into this state where you can unravel them. And so they die, basically, and they're just sitting there with like an orb sitting in the battlefield. You need to run up to it and tap Y to absorb that and unravel the enemy, basically. into your device. And when you do that, it will give you a health boost, but it also will attack the nearby enemies. And eventually in the skill tree, you can choose an ability that will improve the power of that explosion. So it becomes this kind of like dance where you're fighting enemies. The other thing I should mention too, most of the combat in this game is in an arena. So you walk through like this kind of oily looking veil, and then you're trapped in this very tight arena. You have to fight the enemies within the confines of that arena. And so once you get into one of the arena fights, you have to manage the fight in that limited space, but you also are managing killing the other enemies and timing when you unravel them. So what I do is I'll down an enemy. You only have X amount of time before you can do it, before they just disappear. But I'll down an enemy, and then I'll lead the other enemies that are still alive over to that downed enemy, and then as soon as I get near it, I unravel it, and the explosion from the unraveling will hit all the other enemies and do damage to the enemies. And again, as you go through the skill tree, you can set it up in such a way that playing it that way is advantageous. But again, it has pretty much all the tenets of a usual action game, with the added bonus of being able to, and you're right here, this is unraveling the enemy. It was down, you just walk up and hit Y, and it gives you a little health boost, and it will provide an explosion that will take out enemies. So this is very traditional as far as combat is concerned, but it does have some unique twist to it too. So I am surprised that people have gone after the combat. Maybe it's one of those cases where they're struggling to find things to criticize, and they feel like they need to provide some sort of critical analysis. I don't know. I would argue it probably is the weakest part of the game, but it's still not weak. The main
thing I've seen criticized is that it's repetitive.
Yes.
That the loop in every location is pretty much the same thing.
It's not the loop. I mean, most games have a loop that repeats over and over. The problem with this game is it's the enemies that repeat. There's 4 or 5 enemy types, and you fight them from the beginning of the game all the way to the end of the game. They throw in like mini bosses here or there, and there's 4 or 5 like major boss fights. But for the most part, these enemies that you're seeing right now in the B-roll that I'm fighting in this rank and file combat, you fight these same enemies over and over and over again. And that is what gets repetitive. It's not the combat system itself that's the problem. It's that you're fighting the same dudes every freaking time. And they don't even mix them up over time or get like faster or better or have new attacks or anything like that. They're pretty much just like they were at the beginning of the game. Other than the fact that maybe they do a little bit more damage when they actually do manage to hit you. So as far as health is concerned, like you can't really like generate health on your own. You can when you unravel an enemy, you get a little bit of health back. But generally, like when you go into one of those combat arenas, there's like a little greenish orb there. That's 1 health power up. So basically every fight, you have the ability to replenish half of your health bar. And you need to get through that fight with a health bar and a half, basically. And that's pretty much how it works out. Now you're seeing some of the other abilities that she gets, the ability to pick stuff up and throw it. You come across objects that you're supposed to platform on that aren't there. So if you hit LB, she uses her magic to like make the objects materialize. This is the Uncharted stuff I was talking about. There are other sections of the game where traversal, there are these sort of orbs up in the trees or on the power lines. And if you hit the L trigger, you'll just basically teleport straight to them. And it becomes this thing where like you're just soaring through the environment, going from one like glowing point to another. Here you're seeing the LB to make the objects materialize so you can then land on them. And that's pretty much all the mechanics in the game. It doesn't go beyond that at all. And again, the design, the level design is very simple. It's very linear. You know exactly where to go and what to do next. It's just a matter of whether you can actually do it or not. Can't go into the water. If you go into the water, you die. And at first I was like, why? That seems so stupid. But then you start playing the game and you realize that if you could go in the water, all the tension is drained out of the platforming. Because all the danger is falling into the water. Not that there really is any danger, because if you do fall in the water, they don't really punish you anyway.
I can see why water would be deadly in a game about a flood.
Yeah. I think that's definitely, they're like, oh, the water is like your nemesis or whatever, because it took your mother away and maybe killed your mother. But yeah, you can't go into the water and the water ends up becoming like an important puzzle and platforming element because they use the water as places you can't get to, and they challenge you to try to figure out a way to get someplace without swimming through the water. So it seems that like that was a concept for the game from the beginning, and the whole game has been built around it. So it seems a little off-putting at first, but the more you play it, you start to realize why things are that way. My biggest complaint, honestly, with playing the game is the camera. particularly in the early going, I think it's trying to hold the player's hand too much. So there's a lot of times where I was trying to move the camera, the game was trying to move it on its own at the same time, which resulted in some awkward situations early on. It seemed like as the game wore on, they stopped doing it. I guess they're assuming that over time the player will get used to controlling the camera. I don't know. I guess it depends on who they're actually targeting this game towards, if it's towards casuals or people like us who play a lot of games. But I just found it annoying. I was like, wait a minute, like, I can control this camera. I don't need you doing it. Here she is getting the magical bottle that she uses to fill up with the bad memories. All the people that you meet in this game are very unique and cool. Like, every single one of them you will remember. You don't meet a ton of people, but the ones that you do, you will remember, and they do a good job, too, of making those people relevant later on in the game when you think that they're just bit characters, and they come back, you're like, oh, I remember you. Now you're seeing the only thing that you collect in the game, and that's those orbs. Those orbs, you get them for defeating enemies, you just find them in out-of-the-way places, and all those orbs do is let you go into the skill tree and upgrade stuff. The skill tree, your perfect timing, you're about to see, right there it is. The skill tree in this game is very simple. So the one on the left, the general one, that handles upgrades for anything in combat. And then the tower on the right, that's all for specific spells that you learn. So the weave is basically taking apart the enemies after you kill them. So if you improve that, it'll give you more health back whenever you unravel enemies. The strand push pushes enemies away. Like the first level of that just pushes them away. The second level of that pushes them away and does damage. Then there's a strand pull where you can pull them at you. And again, that as you level that up, it does more damage. And then there's Crouton. Crouton is her little doll. And he can do a bunch of stuff. So you can send him to attack enemies, and he will. Like if you send Crouton at an enemy, that enemy will then start attacking the other enemies. If it's a specific kind of enemy. If it's the ones that are just big blobs that you have to fight that spawn other enemies, then the doll will go inside the enemy and freeze it so you can run up and actually like lay into it, which is a big mechanic that you have anyway in this game. Like one of your abilities basically are one spell that makes enemies slow down and stop. So you use that, they're frozen, you can jump in and deal a bunch of damage. There's the push that I said that pushes enemies away and also does damage and stuns them for a little bit. And you just basically manage those two spells in with your melee combat to create combos. And again, as I mentioned, like monster management inside these enclosed arenas. It's all things that you have to consider while you're engaged in combat. And here's one of the boss fights in the game. Again, there's only like 4 like real boss fights in the entire game. This is the 3rd or 2nd. I can't remember actually. But the boss fights are memorable. They're cool. They're completely different from everything else in the game, which I feel like a lot of boss fights should be that way. A lot of games don't decide to do it that way. But I had a lot of fun with the boss fights in this. You can also wall run. One thing you learn to do in this is jump, jump, dash. So you have a double jump, and then you can do a dash at the end of it, and you use that mechanic over and over and over again. I would argue that platforming and traversal are probably 70% of this game, and the other 30% is combat. But even at that, by the time you get to the end of the game, the combat is, you are tired of doing it. Because again, you're fighting the same people over and over and over again. As you complete each area, it's one of those games where the whole world comes back to life. Like, so you win one of those arena battles, and you get a cutscene where all these nasty vines and rot dissolve away and reveal a revived nature, basically. I never get tired of watching that after each battle, watching the world return to its former splendor. I never got tired of watching that. And then there's just some moments in this game that are just like, whoa. Like, there's one area you go into where it's just a slaughterhouse full of dead pigs. And Matt, I'm curious to get your take on the visuals in this game. So by now, if you've been watching the B-roll, even at 30 frames per second, you've picked up on the fact that this game uses a weird stop motion, like staggered frame rate art style. Mm-hmm. Watching the trailers for this game before I played it, I thought I liked it. Playing the game, though, not so much.
I did not like it in the trailers.
You didn't like it?
I don't mind the stop motion idea, but I think it's weird that it's mixed with like 60 frames per second gameplay. Mm-hmm. Like I think you need to pick one.
I agree.
Either it runs at this frame rate at this like kind of animation. Like she doesn't look stop motion here to me.
No.
She looks like a normal video game character. Either they're stop motion all the time or they aren't.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That's how I would play it anyway.
It-
I like the stop motion look. I wouldn't mind because like other games have done something like Little Nightmares kind of does that. It's not unprecedented, but I just don't. The gameplay doesn't seem to match the cutscenes.
It doesn't. You'll come across weird things, like there was a snapping turtle crawling into the lake, and I just walked over to just check out the snapping turtle and watch him, and it just became this weird, like, jittery thing where it almost glitches like into the water because it feels like they're pulling random frames out of the animation. It's just like all jittery and glitchy. Like it looks like it's an accident. Like it doesn't look like it's on purpose. Is maybe the best way I could describe it.
I think it depends on what, like, there's things where, like, when I've seen in the footage where, like, it starts a new scene, it looks like slowdown at first, like when they're bringing new character model, and it looks like Unreal stutter, basically. And then, like, when, like, the giant, like, catfish is talking, it looks like a stop motion, like, Tim Burton thing.
Yeah.
It seems to vary wildly depending on.
And it does. Like, to your point, like, while you're playing the game, it's not jittery. Like, it doesn't feel like you're losing frames while you're playing or it's slowing down. It's only in the cutscenes. Or, if you wander up to something, it feels like it goes into this, like, stop animation mode or something. It's very weird how it's handled in this game. I don't think it looks good. I would rather just play this game at a smooth 60 frames per second without the artistic sort of stutter put into the game. And I just don't understand why it's even artistic to put a stutter in a game. Like, stop animation itself is cool because it brings things to life that otherwise you would have to do in CG or, like, in cartoon or whatever. But in the context of a video game, I just don't feel like it works. And the sad part is that the rest of this game is gorgeous. I love the look of the game. I love the character designs. I think the characters, the humans in this look awesome. They have a very stylized look to them that stays consistent with the look of the rest of the game. It's just the weird, goofy frame rate that is off-putting to me. Combat's smooth and fluid, feels good. The dodging feels good. They give you a pretty wide window for your perfect dodges and stuff like that. And like other games that have perfect dodges, when you do that, it slows the enemy down and gives you a window to jump in and do damage. Here's Crouton. So Crouton can fight for you. There's also these sections of the games where you can't get in a little hole and you spawn him and send him into the hole to do your bidding for you. But for me, personally, like where I remember him most is in combat. Being able to toss him at an enemy and watch him attack the enemy or get absorbed into the enemy and do damage from the inside of the enemy. Crouton was a surprising addition to this that I didn't think I would like when I first met him, and as the game wore on, I enjoyed using him more and more. So I feel like ultimately that was a pretty good decision to add him to the game. What else? I'm talking about the VO already. And again, the game is just 100% linear. It is a throwback to like action-adventure games from the early aughts. If you miss games like that, but obviously at modern production values, this is a great choice. I feel like I've described the plot and the setting well enough. You've watched the B-roll to kind of get the vibe of the game. It's probably not for everybody. Not because of its setting in the South or whatever. It's just a niche sort of setting for a video game. And it's, you know, even though there are bombastic monsters, because the other angle of this is that she fights all these folklore monsters, these monsters that have been told in campfire stories in the South for decades and decades. She fights all those in this game. But there's also an angle to that I'm not going to spoil of why that is happening. So there are undertones and different contexts to the story in this game. I think the story in this is excellent. One of the better ones that I've experienced. I feel like we're on a run here with video game stories, like great video game stories over the last like few months. This is another one. Like, I wanted to save Mom, but as you go on, it's not just about saving Mom anymore. It becomes about much more than that. And that, to me, is where the real value in this game comes from. So I had a great time. How much would I pay for this? I think they are selling it for like $50. But again, as we always say on GameFace, just spend $15 or $20 and get Game Pass for the month and play it. And while you're there, go play Avowed and go play Indiana Jones and go play all these other awesome games that have come out over the last couple months on Game Pass. Game Pass is really, it's just hitting its stride. Like, if we can get a game like this a month along with one big blockbuster, I think they're going to do real well. I mean, that makes Game Pass a service that people want to subscribe to. And I had a blast with this. I would say it's about, I think it took me around 14 hours to finish it, something like that. Maybe a little steep at $50 for that amount of time. But again, this is a boutique game. Like, you're not going to play another game like South of Midnight with a stop motion animation that's set in the deep south where all the enemies are these folklore creatures that have been told by campfires for all this time. Like, this is one of those games where the developer was like, we have a crazy concept. We're going to execute on it really well and hope that people will come along for the ride. So I totally get that you may watch this and be like, I don't care about any of this stuff. It looks weird. I get it. But if you are open-minded to new concepts and ideas in games, I think you will appreciate this game a ton. And I do think that's another reason why maybe they didn't go overboard on the combat and gameplay, because I think they're trying to otherwise make the game as accessible as possible, because the other parts of it are kind of inaccessible for a certain audience. So it'll be interesting to see how this game does. I think it's a great Game Pass game. This is the exact game that you want on Game Pass, where it's like kind of risky for people, where they're like, I don't know if I'd pay for that, but for $15 a month, I'd probably play it. And then people give it a chance, and they see that they really like it. And hopefully that opens their mind to different game types and gameplay styles in the future. So this could be a good sort of evangelistic game that gets people into other types of games that maybe they wouldn't have considered before, because the combat traversal are very simple and inviting to not necessarily the core player. So I had a blast. Will you play this now, Matt, after I've talked about it?
Yeah, I wanted to play it. I just wasn't here.
Yeah. Do you have questions about it?
Not really. I mean, I feel like I kind of already knew mostly what it was. Like, it seemed pretty obvious. I guess I'm a little surprised at how simple it seems.
Yeah.
Certainly that was like kind of the overall first impression I saw online, was just like, oh, this is... I think people were expecting this to be more like along the lines of like Banishers, where that was a little more open, sort of wandering, kind of world sort of thing. And this is, like you say, this reminds me more of like a PS2 game. Like in terms of like kind of running through, not that it's small or whatever, but like you're just running
straight ahead.
You're running down the golden path and picking up collectibles when you see a detour and kind of going back, and
that's it. There really aren't collectibles. So there's the one currency that you use for the skill tree, and that's it. There's pages that you can find that build on the lore, and those are the only things you collect in the game. It is very streamlined. Like, I didn't even talk about the options in this because there's nothing to talk about. You literally have the one currency that you collect that you're using the skill trees, and that's pretty much it. So it's very simple, very streamlined.
Looks like you're collecting like things that upgrade your health too.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're right. There is one other thing there, but man, I think I found 5 of those in the entire game. You need 3 of them to upgrade your health meter. I upgraded my health meter like once the entire time, and I was looking around because it's not hard. Like, it's very simple. Oh, there's a split path here, and usually one path is the way to go forward through the story, and the other one is to find the currency that you need to upgrade your abilities or whatever. The other thing I would say, too, another criticism I do have of this game is that there are too many point of no return moments where they don't tell you. Where if you make that last jump, you can't go back.
Yeah, I'd heard that, like, be careful about not being able to go back.
Yep, and that is accurate. So there's points where, like, the road splits, and one way is to get the currency, the other way is to go forward, but if you take that one step too far in the path to go forward, you can't get back to that fork in the road to go and get the currency again. So
can you replay chapters?
You know what? I didn't boot the game back up after I finished it, but I wasn't able to do it while I was playing the game.
Sometimes it's only from the menu.
Yeah, I didn't check. I just kept playing the game, and it doesn't offer you the ability inside the game to go back and replay stuff. So maybe, but honestly, I just don't know.
Seems it'd be weird to keep track of all that stuff and not let you go complete it.
It does. I mean, again, like, it's not necessary because the game is tuned pretty easy.
Yeah. But I know it tells you, like, what if you've collected all the readables in an area or whatever. So, like, it feels like, why would you keep track of that if there's no way to ever go back
and get them
up again?
Somehow, some way, you're right.
Now you're just taunting them.
No, you're right. Somehow, some way, you probably can go back. Maybe after you finish the game, you can go back and play whatever you want and go back and get that stuff. I'm just saying, fair warning, tread carefully when you're playing this game.
A lot of people don't want to do that.
Right.
I want to get them all the first time.
Yeah, I did too. But there's just, I was trying to be thorough. There's just a couple times where I got burned by it.
You're always going to have a time sometimes in games like this where you guess wrong on which one the critical path
right.
is. So.
Well, then the other part of it, too, is that you end up wasting then like 30 minutes trying to get back. Because you're like, I don't believe it. I don't believe that there's no way to get back. The game developers couldn't be so stupid that they would not give me a way to get back. Sometimes you can get back if you're really crafty and good with the traversal. Sometimes you can't. and that's just the truth. So, I had a really good time with this game. It's short. I think it's the perfect length for what it is, because it also does get to a point where they're not adding a lot of new features to the combat and the gameplay, and it kind of settles into a little bit of a groove. But also at that point, they start bringing on the bosses a lot more frequently to kind of compensate for it a little bit. But you do get to a point in this game where you do get into a groove, and you do feel like you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again, and then the game ends. So I think they nailed the length on this. I would be interesting to see a sequel of this game, honestly, and see what they decide to do with the sequel. But I do think for a brand new IP with concepts that a lot of people may immediately reject, I feel like they did a pretty good job designing this game.
South of Midday.
Yes. The sequel, you mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, that is South of Midnight. Right now, it's only available for PC and Xbox Series. I do think eventually it'll probably come to PS5 because every Xbox exclusive
I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah, especially a game like this that you need kind of all the sales you can get to recoup the development costs. I definitely see this coming to PlayStation.
It reminds me of kind of, like I said, old PS. Sony used to make games like this once in a while, like Primal. I'm thinking of. Not that this is as meh as Primal,
right? But
like that kind of like story-driven linear platformer combat game.
Yeah,
it's like used to be kind of bread and butter AA stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just don't see him anymore. It was
Psychonauts.
Yeah, it was actually kind of refreshing to play a game like this where you're not worried all the time about missing stuff. Where you're just like, you know what? If I do miss some of that currency, not a big deal. I'm already walking through the game as far as difficulty is concerned anyway. Like, I didn't feel bad or guilty or like, oh, I totally screwed up when I did find out I couldn't go back. So I was like, I don't need it anyway. And again, the game teaches you that over the course of the first few hours that like, yeah, you have a little leeway here. This isn't a game that's going to punish you for dying, and it's going to be hard for you to die in the first place. You're generally going to need to make a mistake before you die in combat in this game anyway. So, yeah, I found it to be kind of perfectly designed for what it is. It's a risky concept. You don't want to make other parts of the game as risky, and I feel like they played it safe a little bit there, and I think that was probably the right call ultimately. But I had a ton of fun with this game. I love the character. Hazel Flood, I'll remember her. And I don't know if she'll appear in another game eventually or whatever, but she made a strong impression on me in this one. So she's well written. Again, once you get past that opening cutscene where the voiceover is a little wonky, she's great.
It's cool to do like a continuous series, which is like, kind of American folklore, sort of, Yankee Gothic kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually.
You could incorporate Hazel into those things. I would be like, there's different legends and weird tall tale things everywhere in the country. It'd be cool to like see different parts of the country in that style.
Seriously, there's a chupacabra is one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Mythical animals. Do they the jackalope? Do they exist or not? There's a bunch of them.
You could go up at the Eastern Seaboard and do Mothman.
Right.
And all the weird shit up in New England and
swamp creatures,
Headless Horseman. There's a lot of possibility there.
There really are. Yeah. So we'll see, but I mean, it is rooted in the South.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she moves to some other place or something.
Move, or she could. I'm sure there's weavers elsewhere. I haven't played it, so I don't know if there's like still room to like kind of delve this location, this setting, or if it's like you'd want to move on to like.
I honestly didn't know enough about the South to know if they've milked it all.
Yeah, I'm sure that you can keep going for whatever, but it's like you either you keep doing in the same location or you could do North of Midnight.
Right. No, you're right actually, and you could even use a different protagonist in that case. But
yeah, but if you do that, I think it'd be cool to have Hazel maybe show up as like the mentor character for like the Obi-Wan figure.
She's a weaver, right?
Put you on the right, the new protagonist on the right path somehow or something.
She could be like the mentor or whatever of the new weaver. Yeah, that could be cool. So, if I had paid $50 for this, I might feel that's a little steep. I would probably feel more comfortable spending around $40 for it or something like that.
There's no Mario Kart.
Right, exactly. Mario Kart would be double that. It is a linear game. It does feel like a throwback. It does last about 14 hours. So as long as you know that, the setting, I think you're well armed to figure out whether you would want to pay real money for this game, or, as we always recommend, just get Game Pass for a month and play it that way for like 15 or 20 bucks. It's a no-brainer, people. Let's go to you guys and see if you have any questions about this before we move on. We always like to get your input on games. Is Matt's mic working? He sounds far away, like he's only being picked up by Shane's mic. Is that true? Let me turn down my mic.
I don't know. He said that before you even started talking about South of Midnight.
How's he sound now?
We can't see it. You're scrolled way back.
Oh, you're right. I'm so far behind. Do you fight the catfish? I'm not going to spoil that. I'll just say this. Initially, the catfish is your friend. So you find him. He's trapped by this giant stone statue that tried to, like, snatch him up and then was frozen. So you need to climb the statue and free the catfish from its captors. And then he becomes, at the beginning, he becomes your guide and fills you in. Like, he knows what weavers are. He knows what all the mythical creatures are. And he's kind of like your guide through the early part of the game, filling you in on, like, the relationship between you and your mother. Like, he doesn't tell you a lot of stuff. He'll, like, hint at stuff, and then you'll actually get the resolution to that in the cutscenes that show the flashbacks. So initially, he's your friend. That's all I'm going to say. Any Brujeria, Papa Legba mentioned. I don't know what that even means. I'm guessing those are other folklore monsters from the south?
I think that's like witchcraft and...
I don't remember hearing that Minority Games, anything like that. Fire Native says, do you fight a monster called the
Rougarou?
Rougarou. That's a famous South Los Angeles folklore.
Kind of a werewolf sort of thing.
No. I'm surprised you knew what that was. Impressive.
I know weird.
I know my folklore. Vincent says it is $40. Okay, then it's perfect. That's exactly where it should be priced. I thought it was $50 when I checked earlier.
Maybe it was $50 when you bought the early access.
Maybe. Actually, you're right. That could be. El Hugo, thank you for Twitch Prime. They're saying you're low.
Yeah, but I'm always low.
Yeah, and I always have his volume cranked up way higher than mine,
I'm always low unless I'm yelling.
Yeah.
You got to remember that if you take a decibel meter here, Shane's voice is at the threshold of pain.
Yeah.
Like,
I have a really loud voice.
Like, this is a man built to yell across fields.
Yep. I project for sure.
So you got to be that in rural Pennsylvania.
L.A., Louisiana. Yeah, I got that part.
Honed from shouting in electronic rave warehouses
over dumb people trying to request songs. I don't take requests. Any other questions? Oh, did you say her last name is Flood? Yes, her name is Hazel Flood. Yep. I know, not exactly all that clever. Too Quick Capri, thank you for Twitch Prime.
A little on the nose, but that's okay.
Yep. Noxae Eternitis, this is actually a great comparison. How does this compare to Kena, Bridge of Spirits? It is literally like a deep south version of Kena. That's a good way to put it. And if you liked Kena, you're going to love this game as well.
Although it doesn't sound as hard as Kena. Kena got challenging.
Yeah, it's definitely easier than Kena, without a doubt. But they are very, very similar. Good. In fact, I probably should have come up with that on my own, Noxae Eternitis. That's my job, to find other games that are comparable, and you did it and I did not. But that's why we bring you guys into our chat.
I certainly didn't dislike it, but I can't blame anyone for forgetting Kena happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like they should have pushed that a little harder.
I think this game's better than Kena, honestly, but they are very, very similar. Erebus says...
It's more unique in terms of... I mean, certainly got more verve to it.
Yeah. Erebus reminds us that there is a disable stop motion effect option in the accessibility menu, but it's like... Then you're like taking the art out of the art.
Well, and also it's like, I want an enable stop motion. I'd rather play the whole game like that.
Right.
Or not at all.
Right.
And I guess the only option is not at all, but I would love to have an option that makes the gameplay
work that way.
That.
Yeah. Yep.
So I do think it's a cool choice, and I think it's a appropriate choice for like a folklore-based kind of, Southern Gothic kind of thing. But like, it just feels weird that it feels like they didn't commit to it.
Yep. Or they hedged their bet.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
They didn't commit to it.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta have confidence in it, because clearly you have confidence in the cutscenes, but then everybody's moving normal in the main gameplay, and I know you're afraid to like alienate the people that think everything should run at 4 billion frames a second or whatever. But like, come on.
Yeah.
You can still find a way to for the characters to animate on 3s or 4s and still have the gameplay run at 60.
No, you can. Again, the weird thing for me is that you would find things out in the world that are operating in stop motion.
Yeah, that is odd.
It's like, again, I walked to the shore and there's this huge snapping turtle there, and I'm like, oh, I just wanted to walk up and see if it was going to attack me and like try to kill me. And it ignored me and it started going into the water, and I'm just like, what? And then she moves away, all fluid. It's really bizarre. I don't know how they decide what to show in that art style. I don't know.
Unless it's supposed to be like a dream world kind of thing. But then she moves like that in the cutscenes too,
right?
So it doesn't really.
It doesn't add up.
I don't know. It's a nitpick, but it does bug me.
Yeah, me too. I hear you. Oh, how is the music? Music is amazing. You're right. I'm surprised I didn't mention that. The music is great. Absolutely. All the way through.
Shane fake shouting quieter than his normal voice. That's true. Your EDM shout was actually quieter than you know.
Yep. I couldn't beat the first boss in Kena, Talica 1981. Yeah.
Kena had some spikes. Kena had some difficulty spikes that were surprising for like what it looked like.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, like I thought this was going to be like Malice, and it's
right.
just like no. There's some moments where they expect you to really understand how the combat works in that.
Yep. Veritas says you need to compress the audio to level out the two voices. That happens, actually. It happens in the TriCaster, and it happens when we record the archive in OBS. So you'll notice when you listen to the show or watch the show live that our voices are much more leveled out than they are during watching the live broadcast. Shouting in lowercase, Emperor Dread says. So anyway, there you go. That is South of Midnight. Again, it's available for PC and Xbox Series X for $40, or you can get Game Pass for a month on PC for $11 a month, or on console for $20 a month, and it would be worth it. Just alone, $20 for South of Midnight. It's worth it for 1 month of Game Pass. And there's so many other awesome things on there. You know, Matt and I are evangelists for Game Pass. We swear by it, and it's just getting better and better and better. Right now, I don't know how anyone could complain about subscribing to Game Pass.
Yeah.
Because now you have the big back catalog from all the acquisitions.
Yeah, now that things are actually coming out.
And not just like crappy things, like good things.
No, a couple of the best things I played this year.
Right. On Game Pass for $20 a month. So again, we'll keep saying it till the cows come home. If you can do it, if you got the right hardware to have Game Pass, get Game Pass. It's worth every freaking penny. Okay. It's time to move on. We're going to talk next about a little poll that BAFTA did in Europe, where they polled a bunch of people on what is the most influential game of all time. Matt, did you see the story for this already?
Yeah.
So you know that the number one pick for that poll was Shenmue. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think that's probably true.
You think it's the most influential game of all time?
I don't know about all time. Probably the most influential game of all time is, like Donkey Kong, like platforming, or like Super Mario Brothers 1.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like the modern era, the 3D era, Shenmue, no question. I mean, Mario 64 nailed how you control a character in 3D space,
mm-hmm.
but Shenmue is the thing that kind of like, and to be clear, you don't have to be good to be influential.
No, you're right.
Like, Disaster Movie was very influential.
Right.
Because
yeah.
it spawned tons of other movies like it. Or
that
like,
were actually decent.
The Room was influential.
Yeah.
Because of what it turned into.
Mm-hmm.
And I 100% believe that people making like 3D games and 3D action games, fighting games, adventure games, RPGs, it all comes from this. It all comes from these weird, halting first steps that are Ryo looking for sailors.
I mean, it definitely created the template for the modern open world game.
There was nothing like this shot in video.
Oh,
look
yeah.
Like that cinematic shot through the trees.
Yeah.
Like Suzuki, for all
went
the
way overboard.
For all the lack of follow-up beyond this,
yeah.
like, there was nothing else like this. It was incredible. And
it was the most expensive game ever made at the time.
And I have tried to replay this in the last, 10 years, and I can't.
No one can.
But I went through this game in Japanese with a guide,
it blew my
and then
mind.
I played it in English,
yeah.
and then I played the Japanese version of the English version, Shenmue USA,
yeah.
and then I did the same thing with 2, and they were all. I played the Xbox version of 2,
mm-hmm.
And I loved all of them. And because there was nothing else like it. And now you go back and you're like, you hold the trigger to run?
Yeah.
Like, why would you? There's so many questions about. Things have just evolved into a different. The controls of 3D games have become a different language than what Shenmue sort of proposed originally. Mm-hmm. But it all goes back to that.
Yeah.
And it's so yeah, I think you're up there with like Super Mario Brothers 1, Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, GTA 3.
That's kind of the big question for me. Should it be this game or GTA 3 or Grand Theft Auto?
I don't think you get GTA 3 fully without this game.
Didn't GTA 3 come out like a year later?
Yeah.
So they had already been building it.
They've been building it, but and again, they were building GTA 3 on the real influential game that nobody wants to fucking talk about is Body Harvest.
Yeah.
Because you go back to Body Harvest, you're like, oh, GTA 3. This is absolutely a prototype of GTA 3.
Yeah, I mean that was what 90.
That was 98. It was 98. Yeah, it was supposed to be an N64 launch title,
and like 3 years later,
it took a while. Of all the games on the N64 that I am looking forward to playing on my analog 3D, should that ever actually come out, it is Body Harvest.
Yeah,
because Body Harvest
is the one that needs
a decent frame rate. I can't even imagine what that's going to look like.
Because it was literally like 15 frames a second. Yeah.
But I mean, Shenmue was already. I mean, Shenmue was going to be a Saturn game. Everybody knew about the.
They knew what it was.
There was almost a little bit of a race to be the first game of this type.
Yeah.
And I am sure that DMA Design had some of that in mind when they were doing some of this.
But nobody played Body Harvest, so it didn't influence anything.
No.
I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and like everyone did play Shenmue at the time, especially in the development world. I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to find someone who's making video games in 1999 who did not play this game.
Yeah,
it was just such a technological marvel and a presentational marvel. And obviously, I built part of my career on making fun of how ridiculous the English voice acting is in this game, but that was just sort of what dubbing was like then. It's the same dubbing team that did Iron Chef at the time, which is why the guy who says "Koisan" like that guy who interrupts the announcers all the time in the original Iron Chef in English. Yeah, that's the same guy who's like his loser like adopted brother in this, who like, just got thrown out of the dojo on his ass. That's the same voice actor.
Interesting.
And every once in a while, if you watch that original Iron Chef, you'll hear someone's like, "Oh, that's Ryo."
Yeah,
it's totally him.
Funny.
So yeah, I believe that. I mean, again, I have to believe it because it's these people that make video games saying like, "Yeah, that's the game." Didn't
This list is a little wonky though.
Some of
as
it,
we start going down through. So second,
and also I think maybe you need to keep in mind that this is Europe,
right?
Maybe there's a different.
Well, there's some things on this list, like for example, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 finished 7th.
Influential.
Yeah,
it came out like a month ago.
I know.
What does that mean?
I mean, I think it's people polled in Europe. I think that's why.
But how can you be influenced by something you haven't made anything influenced by?
I don't know, Matt.
They
didn't understand the assignment.
And again,
they should have been the first Kingdom Come.
No one else is going to make. But Kingdom Come was not influential because no one else has made a game like that because it's fucking crazy.
It's like polarizing. Yeah. Yep. So second was Doom. How do you feel about that?
I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, first person. I mean, there's a lot of first person games.
Yeah, a lot of first-person shooters. I mean, for a while they're taking over the industry.
Right, and not even just Doom in terms of Doom being Doom, but in terms of shareware, the distribution method. Like, they revolutionized that, too.
It really did. So they have Doom at second. Third place, they have Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that one probably maybe should have been second.
Maybe. I mean...
Or is it Donkey Kong, like you said?
It's hard to say. I mean, the scrolling is the important part here, really. In part because, it's sort of what defines it, and in part because PCs couldn't really do that.
Right.
At the time. It was something that you could only get on console and arcade for a while. PC had a hard time scrolling screens until, I think, really, Jazz Jackrabbit figured that out. Or maybe it was something similar to it. So, I don't think you can really discount that. And also Super Mario, outside of the game itself, it defined pack-ins. It defined the genre of.
It saved the gaming industry pretty much.
Yeah, it's certainly part of it.
I mean, a big hand in it.
It's the game everybody knows.
Yeah.
Because it came with every NES. So if you've been exposed to a Nintendo Entertainment System, Mario Brothers. There's very few people under 50 who can't hum the song.
Yeah.
It's
that's so much.
I would maybe argue that like Super Mario Brothers is more iconic, but I don't know you can see Shenmue's and Doom's influence in almost any 3D game.
Yeah, you're right.
You can probably see Mario's influence in almost any 2D game, but it's not as relevant today.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you cannot if you weren't alive then or weren't old enough to remember, if you went to a store in 1990. It was just Mario clones.
Yeah.
Like so much of the libraries of everything. Someday I'm gonna dig up the thing and bring it and read some of the letters because like in the old video game magazines, the VG and CEs, where it's just people from like 89 and 90 writing in to talk about how the video game industry is going to die because of the lack of creativity that Nintendo has caused by Mario Brothers. Like everything's a Mario game now. Yeah. Everything's a Mario Brothers clone. So like video games are going to crash again like they did in '84. And like now, obviously, I mean, I thought that was stupid then too. I remember reading them, but now you're reading them and you're like, oh, nothing changes. Like it's just the same
It's the same thing. It's still happening in 2025. The industry's going to end. So Super Mario Brothers third, and then fourth was Half-Life, not Half-Life 2, the first Half-Life, which I was a little surprised by. See that.
I mean, this is immersive storytelling invented in 3D. It was a mod.
Yeah.
You know, like this changed a whole lot of stuff. The idea that you could make a mod that was good enough to make you a functioning development company, and then obviously you go on to make the biggest store marketplace in the entire industry. I mean, probably not everybody's going to do that, but the idea that like making a good enough mod can give you a career, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this Half-Life and Ocarina and Metal Gear all came out within like the space of 3 weeks of each other in '98. Which was crazy.
It really is. It's insane.
And Half-Life was probably the game I was least interested in then. But I would argue that Half-Life maybe holds up better than the other two these days, in part because it keeps being updated and changed and kind of brought into the modern day in terms of like, you know, updating it to source and then updating it to physics and etc. But there again, anything with a real-time user-controlled cutscene goes back to Half-Life.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't exist before. The idea that you could just stand in that little, like, you know, the little, like, tram thing and just look around and walk around and look around while they were announcing stuff and setting up the situation. And
it seems so simple now, but back then...
that had not happened before.
Yeah.
Not in 3D.
So I think that's a pretty good pick. My only problem, really, is that it's ahead of this game, Ocarina of Time. Like, I would put, honestly, Ocarina of Time should be in the top, like, 3.
I mean, it depends. Because the only thing Ocarina really contributed that stuck is the lock-on. Mario 64 figured out how to move a character in 3D space.
Yeah. And
Zelda figured out how to make a character, like, pay attention to something in 3D space.
But Zelda also kind of created the open world. Ocarina of Time. Like, it's a pseudo open world, but it's the first time in a 3D game you're just given these huge open expanses to just run around and do whatever you want.
Again,
they were empty, but it was there.
I kind of felt that Mario 64 had already done that.
The worlds were so small, though, in Mario 64.
They didn't feel that small, though. I mean, obviously, Hyrule Field is gigantic. The scope is there.
It's just like the whole concept of having big open areas, then you get to a town, and then you go into the town.
Sort of, but like Body Harvest had already done that same year.
Yeah.
Body Harvest areas are obscenely, like, too large.
Yeah, they're
too large.
It's overboard, yeah.
And when did Turok 2 come out?
That was later, 99, I think.
Was it that late? Because Turok 1...
It may have been 98, actually.
I think it was this same year.
Yeah, you may be right. It was 98.
Because Turok 2, again, giant open areas with no fucking save points.
Yeah, it was awful.
I would argue that Ocarina is the first time I liked it, maybe. But...
I mean, creating how combat is going to happen in 3D for till the end of time is I mean, if you're talking about influential games, I mean, that is influential. You're right. Super Mario 64 did free movement in 3D, but Ocarina of Time created 3D combat. How it was going to work. I mean, I just played South of Midnight, and it's the same combat system as Ocarina of Time.
Is the biggest contribution of Ocarina by far.
Yeah.
Like, everything else is sort of a refinement.
Real-time cinematics.
A refinement of what came before.
In a console game instead of the pre-rendered stuff.
Well, I mean, Mario 64 already had that.
I mean, I would use cutscene very lightly and describe... I mean, there's one or two in the whole game when you find Yoshi on the roof and at the beginning. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, but it's still what it was. Like, you know, Half-Life did that Half-Life never breaks.
This was real-time storytelling, though, and real in-engine graphics.
Yeah, but that's what Half-Life did the same week, and it was way better at it.
Yeah. Still, though, this game had it.
Not in any... I mean, story is not important to Miyamoto at this point.
It wasn't, but it was like one of the first games to tell a story in real-time cinematics instead of pre-rendered CG stuff like PlayStation was doing.
Not on the N64. Like, they all did that because you couldn't do pre-rendered stuff.
Right. Yeah, you had to do
like
real-time.
Yeah, but I'm saying N64 games had done that for years at that point because they didn't have a choice.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. They weren't very good at it. This was like the first time I cared about a story in an N64
I don't
game.
give a shit about this game's story
Yeah.
at all. It's just another excuse to go through a Zelda thing, but the Zelda thing is really good.
Yeah, I mean, I cared. When I came back and my village was burning down, I cared a lot. It definitely got me invested into the game for sure. But anyway, I was kind of surprised it was both. Not maybe. I mean, you're splitting hairs here basically with a lot of these games, like which one's more influential than the other. For me, I thought Ocarina of Time probably should have been ahead of Half-Life, but
I would 100% disagree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot discount how important the Z targeting is. Like, anytime you click the right stick to lock onto something, you are doing something Ocarina invented. Yeah. But Half-Life invented 3D storytelling in video games for the most part.
I mean, to your point, you said N64 games were doing it for 2 years before Half-Life came out.
Right, but they didn't do they didn't do anything on the level of wandering around in the middle of the cutscene while things were happening. Zelda doesn't let you do that.
Yeah, I'm not saying Zelda. I'm saying all the other N64 games you talked about before Zelda.
But they also don't do that. Like being able to move around in the world while the narrative's being able to just turn around and not look at the guy talking to you was like, I can't remember a game that let you do that before that.
Yep. And then after Ocarina of Time, they have Minecraft, which...
Sure, I mean...
Was it really all that influential? Because there aren't that many Minecraft clones.
Not that many Minecraft clones, but it is sort of like the again,
it's just so big.
You're kind of bumping up against the influential versus iconic question here. And again, this was a public poll, so it's like you got.
Yep, your mileage will vary. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who love Minecraft are just like, I love Minecraft. I'm not thinking about whether it's influential or not. I just know it's gigantic.
Yeah, I mean, also, again, people might see influential and think influenced me.
Yeah.
And if like that was the game they played the most growing up, then yeah, to them that's probably a move. But if you're talking about influential in the sense of like, what the games that came after it, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of Minecraft
There's
clones,
some,
but I wouldn't argue that they were all that important.
None of them did very well, that's for sure.
I mean, I guess maybe without Minecraft you don't get Roblox, and that has been certainly a societal ill of note. I mean, that's important, right?
It is. It's influencing it for sure.
We got another job for Jack Black.
And so after Minecraft is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I almost wonder if that's like a typo in
I
their
don't
list.
know what that could possibly
so weird.
mean.
And then after Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is Super Mario 64.
After Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Yes. I think a lot of it is just people just don't don't remember.
Someone like there's a bunch of people just think they're polled for the favorite game of the year. So
I don't know.
That seems like a bunch of people not understanding the assignment.
Yep. And then after that, it's like Half-Life 2 is after Super Mario 64, then The Sims, then Tetris, Tomb Raider, Pong, Metal Gear Solid.
See, Sims is interesting because it's like, what is Sims influenced?
Well, there are some Sims clones. There's that new one called like Inzoi or something.
Yeah, the
kind of popular.
The AI slop.
Yeah. It's becoming popular for whatever reason.
It's become popular because there's no other fucking Sims game. That's what I'm saying. It's like, what
EA won't make a new one.
Like, there's no fucking Sims games.
It's true.
No one ever.
Well, there was that other one they were working on that they canceled at the last minute because they're just like, it sucks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there have been people that tried to do Sim stuff, but they either got canceled or they came out and no one liked them.
Yeah.
And even EA's own spin-offs, like who
Sims?
Who remembers the herbs?
Right. And My Sims, which was like the Nintendo-ified Sims game. So then let's just start again. So Half-Life 2, Sims, Tetris, Tomb Raider, Pong, Metal Gear Solid, World of Warcraft, Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 7, Dark Souls, and then Grand Theft Auto 3. Grand Theft Auto 3 is like 20th on this list.
Interesting.
It's like, it's a poll, so you're going to get all different groups of ages and tastes.
Yeah, I would definitely put GTA 3 in the top 10.
Yes, definitely in the top 10.
If only for just open world things.
Yeah, that's what every game is now, is some permutation or combination of GTA 3, so...
just the amount of just how the obviousness of how everyone was just chasing that dragon all through the rest of the aughts.
Right.
Like, there's no way around that.
Yeah.
You know what I just saw a video about?
What?
True crime streets of LA.
Really?
About because it's a video about open world games and big open world games, and the idea that is there anything in any of these old games that anyone hasn't seen yet, and the idea that like GTA 3 probably someone has probably looked, like if you take everyone who's ever played GTA 3, probably every pixel of that game has been looked at.
Oh yeah,
by
somebody
collectively by someone. But he looked into true crime and he basically found in Streets of LA that there's a whole open like flat nothing past the borders of the. And if you drive far enough, you can find areas of the city that exist and are workable and have people and cars in them and named streets and everything, but they're just not in the rest of the game. They're like junk somewhere. Like Long Beach is over there and parts of the valley that are not. So like they modeled all this stuff, but just never
got it into the game.
But they never took it out of the map. So if you drive like 20 minutes into a void, you might eventually end up in like the LBC.
That's insane.
And like, and so he's like, I don't think anyone's seen this. Because there's,
I didn't know about it.
I can't find anything about this anywhere else in the internet. He's like, I think I'm the first person to see this since the developers.
That's crazy. That's nuts. That game is not good, by the way.
Not influential. No.
Yeah, not influential in any way, shape, or form. What are your picks for the most influential games, chat? I want to hear them. Let's just very quickly just type in your game of all the ones we just talked about. What do you think is most influential?
I have a very hard time calling anything other than Mario 64 the most influential game of all time. Certainly at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe when it came out, I would have said Super Mario Brothers, or I don't know, Space Invaders or something. But like, I have a very hard time saying anything other than Mario 64 because just because
at its core,
just because it defined how you move a character in 3D space
and move a camera around a 3D character. Yeah, I mean seriously. All right, here we go. They're rolling in. Witcher 3 from Mellow Pintor. Interesting.
That would be, I don't know if it would be top 10, but definitely like
should be on the list.
I think The Witcher 3 changed how people make side quests forever. Yeah, for sure.
Two Capri picks Space Invaders. Interesting. I'm curious what you thought Space Invaders is still influencing today.
I don't know. I mean,
it's a side-scrolling shooter, I guess.
There's an element of that. It's like, what's more important, the first ape to stand upright or like the thing that crawled out of the sea? You know, it's like, yes, we wouldn't be here without the thing that crawled out of the sea, but how much does the thing that crawled out of the sea really influence us on the day-to-day?
Yeah. AJ says Super Mario Brothers, Mr. Star Walker, Shenmue, and Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII was like...
Final Fantasy VII, even as someone
18th or
who
something
does
on this?
not like Final Fantasy VII, it's crazy that that's that low. Like,
Genshin
it
Impact.
Defined a genre for like 10 years.
Yeah, it really did. And it still kind of is.
And I was going to say, to the point that Square still can't get fucking over it. You know, it's like Square is in part like having trouble right now because they can't get over Final Fantasy
VII. It's true. Minority Games, Genshin Impact. Okay, I mean honestly,
that's not wrong.
You talk to me 20 years from now, he may be right.
Yeah, 100%.
Fahrenheit, that's a pretty good one for adventure games.
Yeah, that's true.
Eat Demon, Mario 64, and Ocarina of Time, pretty common picks there. Cinetype, Doom, Thief, interesting, and System Shock 2, that's a good pick. Xeno 51, Tetris, but Tetris only ever influenced Tetris. As much as I love your little emoji there, that's awesome.
That was that crazy puzzle boom though for a while.
Yeah,
like
where normal people got turned on to puzzles.
Yeah. You could also argue that it's influential in getting people to buy a Game Boy.
Right. Actually, you're right. There's different kinds of influence for sure.
Street Fighter 2 definitely would be on my list.
Tekken for minority games.
Just so much crap. So many crappy fighting games exist because of Street Fighter 2. Like people forget that like back in the 90s and early 2000s, if you were going to make a one-off game as like a random new game developer, you were probably making a fighting game.
Yeah, that's true. Justin Horman says, I'm going to say Doom and maybe give RE4 some respect, although not over Shenmue probably.
Yeah, RE4 deserves some credit for kind of figuring out the over-the-shoulder aiming thing. Mm-hmm. Like that's the first time that really felt good.
Yeah. Nick Satois says Pong. I mean, look, without Pong, nothing else happens.
Yeah, and the influence on that is also like, that was, they put that coin-op thing in Andy Capp's in Santa Clara, California, and they didn't think much of it, and then they got a call about, hey, it's broken.
Because the quarters are coming out of the machine.
It jammed it all. And it's like, that's the first time, I want to talk about influence, you can get rich doing this.
Yeah.
There's your influence.
You're right.
Pong.
You're right. Absolutely. That's a good pick. Minority Games, Metal Gear Solid. I think that's the cinematic action game, which is what we're all playing now. Dune 2.
Yeah.
That's a great pick.
RTS, Origin of the RTS.
Oh, yeah. Greg Kasavin would have agreed with you 1,000%. I sat in a bunch of top 10 list meetings with Greg Kasavin. He would try to get Dune 2 into every list we worked on in some way, shape, or form. Khalib Twilai, Street Fighter 2, though, I think. Street Fighter 1 was kind of the idea, but not really.
Street Fighter 1 had not quite thrown off the shackles of Karate Champ.
Yeah.
It's a very awkward game.
It is, yep. Link's So Good, Morrowind instead of Skyrim. Interesting.
You don't get Skyrim without Morrowind.
That's true. I feel like Skyrim influenced games more though than Morrowind.
Somewhat, but I think Morrowind is the beginning of all that because you also can't discount how different Morrowind was from the previous, from Daggerfall and Arena.
Yeah.
Because that was Morrowind is where they learned like, oh, if we like don't make this obscenely huge and weird and vague, and we actually like kind of focus on something, even with how big Morrowind is, it's like, oh, it works out really much better.
Yeah.
So it kind of like it's weird because you like Arena. I think Daggerfall is still the largest world in a video game ever.
Really? I didn't know that. Actually,
it's a full. It takes literally days to walk across the whole world.
Oh my God.
It's the size of an actual continent.
And it's
gigantic.
The same tree repeated over and over again.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I'm not saying you'd enjoy it. I'm just saying that's how big it is.
Yep. Cinetite says World of Warcraft. I can get that.
Yeah, that's true.
Melopintor says Castlevania and Metroidvanias. Yep.
Yeah.
Swan Senpai, Pokemon. Pokemon's just kind of a turn-based RPG.
Pokemon. I guess.
I mean, there are clones.
You could argue that Pokemon kind of brought in the most influential thing about Pokemon is two things. I would say actually the most influential things about Pokemon are a huge number of things to collect in an RPG like that. It started happening a lot, and the other thing is the idea that a game can be supported by an anime on like international television.
Yeah.
And that's your in.
Yeah.
Like obviously you already had cartoons supporting toy lines and stuff before that, long before that.
Yeah.
Thanks to Masters of the Universe, but like that's the first time I can remember an anime really like taking off, and people knew the game from the anime. People watched the anime because they liked the game. Like it was, the synergy on that was flawless.
Yep. We're gonna have to go through these quickly because we're running out of time here. Emperor Dress says GoldenEye 007. Yep.
Yeah.
Console first-person shooter. You can actually do it. That begot Halo and blah blah blah. Persona 3 from ETH Demon. Herzog's Way from Erebus Jones. That was another Greg Kasavin one that he always tried to sneak into our list at GameSpot. Swan Senpai says Fortnite. It caused all this free-to-play crap.
Yeah.
It kind of did. That's really influential. Robolist 9, GTA 3.
Really, isn't that PUBG?
Yeah, kind of.
Fortnite was basically throwing a desperate free PUBG clone at the wall, and it stuck.
Because it had failed as what it was before. Yeah. The Legacy, Wolfenstein, Mario 64, GTA 3, Street Fighter 2, COD 4. COD 4 is a good pick.
Yeah.
Starfield, good one. Streets of Rage and
see.
Final Fight from Drifter J. ZX Reyes, Batman Arkham Asylum. Zet Saber Juno, RE1.
I wish there were more Arkham Asylum clones.
Khalid Twilai, NBA Jam. Arcade-style sports games? Yeah, I mean, they were a thing there for a while, for sure.
It's certainly, I mean, you had like NFL Blitz and some stuff before it, but man, the frenzy around NBA Jam. To this day, you've still got NBA Jam games.
I got really into Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey, too. It was like the NBA Jam of hockey, and me and my friends got really into that for a while. Double Dragon from Freedom Rock, Mr. Starwalker, talks about Herzog's Way.
And Double Dragon leads you to the most influential movie of the 80s for video games, which is Streets of Fire.
Right, yeah.
You don't have Double Dragon
right.
or Streets of Rage.
Inspired a generation of Japanese men.
Or tons of Bubblegum Crisis. That was a very important game. Cyberpunk looks different now if Streets of Rage doesn't come out because it influenced so much cyberpunk anime in the 80s and 90s.
Yep.
If you haven't seen Streets of Fire, go watch Streets of Fire.
Swan Senpai says I wasn't alive for most of your picks. I'm not surprised.
Go watch Streets of Fire if only to see Willem Dafoe so young. You will be weirded out. Like he's like 23 in that movie. It's amazing. Grumbopolis
says Warcraft 3 at birth the MOBA. That's true.
Yeah.
Link So Good says Mortal Kombat. I think
Dota would really be the answer.
Yeah.
Defense of the Ancients would be the answer there.
Link So Good says Mortal Kombat. Certainly ushered in a new era of adult content.
Yeah, certainly had the most political ramifications.
Yep.
I mean, it certainly launched things into a different arena.
It did. Minority Game says Leisure Suit Larry and GTA.
I mean, King's Quest should probably be on the list there somewhere. It spawned the entire adventure genre.
Yep. Justin Horman says, rest in peace, Wayne Gretzky's record. Here's the thing, though. Wayne Gretzky's goals record is not the record that you want to aim for. You want his points record. I get it. People didn't think that anyone would break Gretzky's goal-scoring record either, but it was the one that was most likely to be broken. So I was a big hockey fan. I'm actually not all that excited by it. I didn't even watch the whole thing after it happened. I was like, okay, he finally got it. If somebody breaks Gretzky's points record, give me a call. I don't think that will ever happen. And if it does, I can't imagine what the player will be that will do it. So, all right. Thanks, everybody, for sharing your picks for the most influential video games of all time. A lot of it comes down to taste, what When You Were Born, as Swan Senpai brought up. Like, you know, us talking about Ocarina of Time and Mario 64, he's like, whatever, dude. Like, that stuff was already happening by the time I was born, you know?
Also, it's hard to gauge, you know, it's like, say, most influential movie of all time. You know, you could argue that, like, Iron Man is because
it set off the MCU,
now.
and
then you go back and you're like, well, Star Wars and Jaws started the blockbuster, but you go back further, it's like Citizen Kane invented how we do cinematography. So like without that, you would. So it kind of depends what you want to use.
Yep. Okay, we have time for one more topic in today's episode before we get to our lightning round, and then ultimately to name that game tune. And that is last week, Shohei Yoshida, boy, he is burning it all down, Matt. He left PlayStation, and he's just like, IDGAF.
No, I'm glad to see Shu in his no fucks given era.
He is just spilling it all. He doesn't care. I appreciate it. Because let's be honest, they screwed him.
Yeah.
Like, he should still be at PlayStation. So more power to Shuhei Yoshida. He said this week that PlayStation needs to dial back its requirements that its first-party games are the best-looking games ever. He basically said, first-party PlayStation games don't need to have the best graphics in the industry, and therefore they will get them out more often, and fans will be more happy. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's true? Do you think if fans got games more often that didn't look quite as good, that they would be happier?
I pretty much agree with that. I think maybe you have like one or two studios you use as sort of the boutiques. I mean, I think you can let Naughty Dog continue to obsess over
do its thing.
Fidelity. But I would argue that, like, for the most part, people just want them to be good, and maybe they want them to come out in less time it takes to get a 4-year degree.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking like a doctorate for some of these games. I mean, master's to doctorate with 7-8-year development cycles.
At some point, it becomes a little ridiculous. I mean, you even had George R.R. Martin saying again yesterday that, like, Winds of Winter is not anywhere near imminent.
What the hell?
It's been 14 years.
I know.
And someone noted yesterday we got Dire Wolves back before we got Winds of Winter.
Another book.
Yeah.
I think he just doesn't care and just doesn't want to write it.
I agree. I think he
made all the money.
He doesn't have to. He made all the money. He wants to enjoy the rest of his life. Great.
I don't blame him.
Don't blame him at all, especially after the reception that the end of the show got.
Right.
It's like, why would you? Again, if you put those books out, you're just gonna get yelled at by nerds the rest of your fucking life. Who
wants that for the last 10 years of your life?
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
If you want to be like a weirdo hero, like write those books, throw them in a vault, and have them published posthumously.
Yeah,
and don't deal with it.
So you don't have to worry about it. I agree with you.
I would do that, except I would not feel that warmly towards the audience to the point that I would put that kind of work in it. I'd be like, fuck these people.
I'd make them intentionally suck.
I'm going to go drink on a beach, and y'all can go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, pretty much. I hear you. I agree with that.
But, I think, not Puddlegate notwithstanding, I mean, people freak out about, like, the visuals, but those are, like, console warrior people. Most of the people I know think just about everything on from PlayStation first party is about equal in
they don't notice.
They don't see I mean, Last of Us 2 was a different thing. Uncharted 4 maybe was a different thing.
Ratchet and Clank rift apart.
But for the most part, like, people don't make a huge distinction between, like, Spider-Man.
Most people can't see the nuance.
God of War,
they're not like us. They're not looking for it. They're just like, it looks great, you know, and that's good enough for them.
And I'm sure he's right that some of this is just like, I waited 7 years for this. Why isn't it perfect? Why isn't the best thing I've ever seen? And if you're putting them out every 4 years, maybe not looking as good, but it's looking pretty good, looking really good. I mean, yeah, sure.
Like, Naughty Dog.
Does anything really need to look better than Days Gone? Like, not
It really doesn't need to. I don't think Naughty Dog needs to have some guy working for 2 weeks to get the flames on a radio just right because a car overturned. Like,
and it's different. Again, it's different when it's like you hear that story about the one guy who worked for a year on that crowd shot in The Wind Rises, the Ghibli movie. And it's different because everyone who watched The Wind Rises saw that shot. It's a linear narrative. And you made this hand-drawn animation thing that looked amazing, and it added to the experience. It thematically, like, got across. It's an amazing achievement of just artistic talent and skill. And it's not the only thing he did for a year. Obviously, something he worked on repeatedly all the time until he got it right and perfect, according to Miyazaki. But like I wouldn't trade that out because everyone sees that. But not everyone is going to notice the effort and detail and time and money that's put into some of these things in these games. Like, you can't control where you're looking.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Matt. There's a lot of people that go to SIFTD every day that can't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just telling the truth. Like,
and also, like, no amount of that is going to make me want to keep playing a bad game.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
It doesn't matter how pretty a game is. If the game sucks, you're not going to play it more than like an hour.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good the graphics look. It really doesn't.
And if graphics really matter that much, Undertale wouldn't be that popular. Minecraft wouldn't be that popular.
So are we getting to where we're like, yeah, maybe PlayStation needs to dial it back a little bit?
I think they probably need to stop being perfectionists.
Yeah, I agree with that, Matt. It's like, as much as I love playing a game like God of War or The Last of Us Part 2 or Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart that really pushes the envelope, like, I feel like I only need one of those or two of those per console, and the rest I just want to play great games.
Yeah, I'm not saying, like, obviously not saying, like, lower your standards to trash or whatever. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Yeah.
You know, it's certainly not visually.
I'd rather get
like
The Last of Us Part 3 in 5 years. I'll be honest.
I'll play 3 more God of War games that look like this.
Me too.
I don't care.
I'll play The Last of Us Part 3 if it looks like The Last of Us Part 2. That's plenty good enough.
Sure.
I agree with Shuhei on this. Like, PlayStation needs to dial it back. I mean, at this point, now it has a monopoly, so it's like, it's probably like, who cares? You'll take what we give you when we're ready to give it to you, because, you know, we don't have any competition anymore.
Congram makes a good point. Elden Ring has barely evolved that formula, and look what it did.
Right.
You know?
And it's definitely not a looker. It's not one of the best-looking games that came out for that platform.
It's got great art direction, but it's not, like, technologically...
Yeah. Nobody spent 2 weeks working on a flame in Elden Ring.
No.
I can guarantee that did not happen.
They might have spent 2 weeks working on the one flame that's everywhere.
Right.
You know, it's like this is every flame in the game now.
Yeah, not the one flame.
I spent 2 weeks on this. You're putting this in every torch. You know?
Right. No, and on that.
Whereas, like with a Sony game, you're like, every torch simulates the level of ash in the
environment,
torch in the environment, and so the flame burns with a slightly different luminescence based on how long it's been there, and it calculates that while you're not looking at it. So if you come back 4 hours later, the torch will be three inches lower than what's. It's like,
don't need that.
Why can't I invert Y?
Right.
You're
right. They're putting the cart before the horse. Absolutely. And look, again, like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Like, they could have put out Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart where we saw what the PlayStation 5 could do. And then everything else doesn't have to be like a tech demo. Like, like we never even got a second Ratchet and Clank out of Insomniac in this generation. We're probably not going to get another one. Like, it used to be we get 3 or 4.
Because they had to, like, basically, like, it seems like they had to kind of all hands on deck Spider-Man 2.
Right.
Which no one seemed even all that super impressed by some of the visuals.
Right.
Like, you know, all I see now are people saying, like, well, it didn't look that good. I'm like, yeah,
no, it actually really did.
All that Sandman stuff is incredible. Like you don't get me to say wow out loud too often these days, but I did that when you first saw that whole section of the city Sandmaned up and you were swinging into it and like all the wind hit you. I'm like, it's fucking
it's
amazing.
Insane. Erebus says, now that Microsoft is putting its games on PlayStation, does Sony actually need to make any more games? Why not just go the other way and produce the uber best? You could. I mean, that's kind of what I said. Like, they have no competition anymore.
Yeah.
Like, they can do whatever the hell they want, and you're going to like it.
I mean, really, it kind of depends how they want to make their money, I guess.
I mean, the point of this discussion is, do you want to be able to play these great PlayStation games more often than we're playing them now?
Yeah.
Yes. My answer to that is yes. And if it means that they're not bleeding edge graphically, I'm okay with that, because the games are great, regardless of how good they look. Yeah, they look amazing, and they're some of the best-looking games on the market, but they're still great games. Even if they had only kind of the best graphics, they're still going to be great games. And I would trade that off to be able to play 2 Ratchet and Clanks per generation instead of 1. I just would.
Like, I wouldn't be upset if I got a Sony game that looked like Banishers,
right?
Or something. Like, you know, it's fine.
Something a little riskier that, like, okay, we're not going to spend as much time on the visuals here because it's an unproven concept. Maybe for the sequel, we go a little more into the tech if it catches on. Like, there's just no experimentation anymore. We're losing sort of that element of the industry where people are taking risks and trying new things because it's taken so long to make these games. So, I would be totally down with PlayStation dialing it back a little bit if it meant I got to play their amazing games way more often. Because it's not just about graphics with PlayStation. They make great video games, period.
Yeah, or like just maybe we could get I forgot their name again. Maybe we could get a Housemarque game more than every 7 years or something.
Well, Housemarque kind of is doing it the right way, right? Because its games look good, but they're not like bleeding edge. But you're right, it still takes them 7 years to make a game for some reason. I don't know why.
There's got to be a reckoning coming on some of this stuff where it's like you just can't take that. I mean, like, you have to dial something back.
Xbox leaving the hardware space kind of threw everything into flux, though. I mean, now that there's no competition for PlayStation, it could just do whatever it wants, and we have to just deal with it.
Just got to sit back and rake in that Starfield money.
I mean, they probably will make a lot of money off Starfield.
I imagine
actually.
it'll probably do pretty well.
I think it will. Yep. So anyway, what do you guys think? Would you guys rather play dialed back games and get them more often, or do you guys want that one game every 8 years that blows your mind graphically? What do you guys think?
I mean, also, I think you're showing Ghost of Tsushima here, or Ghost of Yotei. Again,
This is Tsushima.
Is that Tsushima?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm playing Tsushima. Playing Tsushima on PC now. And there's a little tweaked here and there, but that's a PS4 game.
Mm-hmm.
It looks great.
It does, yeah.
I
mean, look at it right now.
Yeah,
I will always
argue that aesthetics are more important than technology.
I agree too. I agree on that as well.
Like even again, Assassin's Creed Shadows looks great. There's a bunch of like amazing.
It really is
I've seen
crazy.
Draw distance, like seeing all of Kyoto laid out in front of you the first time's crazy, especially when it's snowing.
Right.
Like, wow. But like, there's more memorable moments in this in terms of color and things. You turn the corner and everything's just like, boom! It just hits you in the face. And it's not super advanced tech. It's just good art.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at what you guys are saying in the chat about this. Ammo Clip 20. Thank you for subscribing at Tier 1. That's awesome. We appreciate it. Business says, the reason we aren't getting so many games is in part because devs are being treated better. That's part of it. Yep. Yeah. Cinetyke, Devil's Advocate, how are you going to justify the next generation of consoles if not with stuff like 8K and ray tracing? I mean, again, you still want one or two of those games that show what's possible. They don't all have to show what's possible. What else?
And they already tried 8K in the TVs and it failed, so I don't know what their next big... It's just going to be more performance, I guess.
Erebus says, I'd like cheaper games first and foremost. I might have lost this.
I mean, you might get that depending on how the price hike works out here. I mean, because again, I think that this makes the GTA 6 situation way more interesting now that Nintendo has done the $80 thing and really kind of given permission for people to sort of experiment with that. After the $80 Mario Kart idea, maybe GTA 6 is going to be $100.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like it feels like that really open. I mean, I didn't think Nintendo would be the first ones to do that. But like, it really feels like it opens that door for Take-Two.
I did not have that on my bingo card. I'll admit that for sure. Khalib Twalai says, I want them dialed back, shorter durations at the very least. Okay. Tiny Blip in History says, I'm gameplay first, which means that you care more about the games than the graphics. Fire Native says, 2 top-tier games per gen per dev would be great. Okay. Yeah. That's a good compromise.
As opposed to one.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Erebus says, I'd like cheaper games first and foremost. I already said that. Minority Game says, I don't care that Spider-Man can see his reflection. Yeah.
And how will you know if you get 6 more weeks of winter?
Ethium says part of it is bad. I mean, look, there's a million factors that go into why some games are taking 7 or 8 years. It's not an absolute. You can't just say one thing is the same for every game. But we're talking about PlayStation games here, where you have this infrastructure of other developers who are working on games and sharing knowledge with you. You have engines that you can start working on. It's different working at PlayStation on games than it is working at an independent studio where you're on your own for everything. They have a huge QA department at PlayStation. I mean, there's just so many advantages for PlayStation studios over other studios that it's not really fair to compare PlayStation games to other games. Finally, from Swan Senpai, they spend so much time working on graphics for most people to use performance mode and see the lesser graphics anyway. That's a good point, actually.
What was the stat on that? Like 75% or something?
I think it was like 65.
It was majority used performance.
Yeah, I don't. I use quality pretty much all the time. And part of that, too, is that, like, GameFace is only 30 frames per second. So as long as the game runs at 30 frames per second, it's going to look great on GameFace. And I'd rather the better. I don't really care that much other than shooters, whether I have a higher frame rate. So I'm cool with 30 in just a typical action game.
I mean, I'm always going to pick higher if I can. That's what I have a PC for. But like, as long as it's steady.
Yeah.
I was 100% ready to play Metroid Prime 4 at 30.
Yeah.
Turns out I apparently won't.
It's going to run at 120 according to Nintendo.
I'm going to play that at 60. Yeah. The 4K 60 for quality mode.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Don't need 120.
Yeah, I think it's 1080p 120.
I don't think my TV even does 120.
It does.
That thing?
You have an LG OLED?
Yeah, but it's from like 2017.
Then maybe not.
I don't think it's 120.
Mine definitely does. Do you have variable refresh rate on that TV?
I don't remember. I think so.
Yeah,
but
probably.
I don't think it has. I don't think it's 120 hertz.
You were way ahead of everybody else. You got LG OLED way before most people did.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I moved into the house. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, time to get a new TV.
Yeah,
I guess.
perfect timing. Glad they were available when you were ready to buy one.
Well, they were so expensive at the time; they were not exactly flying off the shelves. So. But I knew it was like an investment. I've had that TV for 8 years now. It's doing good.
Yep. Yeah, it still looks great. I mean,
Yeah.
buy an LG OLED. People ask me all the time, what TV should I buy? Just buy an LG OLED.
Although, to be fair, that Panasonic Plasma in my office still looks pretty good.
That was the TV I had before this one.
Yeah, every once in a while, I'll turn that on, and I'm just like,
damn,
that looks good.
It's crazy.
Still looks good.
That TV also weighs like 500 pounds.
And in the winter, it's great because I'll just turn on some random channel and it just heats the room up.
Yeah.
Because it puts out so much.
I sold mine on Craigslist, and when the guy came to pick it up, he thought he was going to carry that thing by himself.
No, sir.
And then he expected me to carry it out.
You're going to need 2 or 3 strong young lads.
Then he expected me to help him carry it out. I sold it for like $100. I'm like, no, man. I'm like, I'm not putting my back at risk for $100. I'm like, I'm sorry. You're going to have somebody else come and help you. And then he did. He came back 40 minutes later with somebody else, and the two of them carried it out. I was like, for $100, man, sorry. You're going to have to figure it out. I'm basically giving you this TV. I mean, that is like the deal of the century. So, anyway... definitely get an LG OLED if you can afford it. Although now they're pretty cheap. Like you can get like a 55-inch for like $600 now.
Yeah, the C series I would recommend the most.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's it for all our main stories in today's episode. But now it's time for... That's right. It's time for the lightning round where we run through a big old list of stories and Matt provides some commentary on them, hopefully in a minute or less. We'll see how it goes. It can be hard sometimes to talk about something for just a couple seconds, so we give him a little bit of leeway, and I'll chime in here every once in a while as well to try to provide some context. All right, let me get the clips lined up here. I think I'm ready. Matt, first story in the lightning round. The Minecraft movie went absolutely berserk at the box office. It beat the Super Mario Brothers movie to be the biggest game-related movie of all time in the United States. Big deal or not?
Big deal if you got equity in that movie.
Are you surprised by this?
Not even.
We said last week that we both thought it was going to blow up.
I mean, I've been saying it for over a year.
Oh, really?
I mean, they've been running trailers for a year.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it's coming. It's obviously very popular. I've been saying every time the trailers run and when we go see movies, I say to my friends, I'm just like, that's going to make $1 billion. And they're like, they're crazy. I'm like, no. And now everyone's like, oh, I think
how many billions is it going to make?
Yeah, I don't know. Are we in Avatar territory yet?
I mean, it might be.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. We'll see what kind of legs it has.
Okay.
Because by all accounts, it's terrible.
Every review is like, it's awful.
Yeah,
Turn your brain off.
But the kids might not care.
They don't care.
And then, like, you've got stories of like people's experiences going, like people screaming about chicken jockey,
right?
Like the police had to remove people from screenings in places because they were screaming too much. Like, it's crazy.
Okay, and as a piggyback on that, an actor from the film,
jockey on that,
yeah, an actor from the film, Jason Momoa, shared during the press junkets for the film that he lets his kids watch movies, but he does not let his kids play video games.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Well, this is like actually kind of a false headline because what he actually does, he doesn't let his kids have tech.
Oh.
So they don't have iPads or any. Like, so they don't play video games because they aren't given devices that can play them. Basically, it's not a video game specific thing. It's just he doesn't want them to be obsessed with screen time. So they can watch movies because they watch it together as a family and stuff. So I mean,
they can't play games together as a family, though.
I guess not. I don't think he particularly likes games, which is weird that he's in Minecraft.
Right.
You know, it's like, I mean, that's his choice. I think.
I mean, look, it is his choice. He can raise his kids however he wants.
Yeah,
if I was his kid, I'd be pretty pissed.
Yeah, I mean, the kids are gonna play the stuff with
at their friend's house or whatever.
The kids are gonna get the thing they're not supposed to get wherever they get it. You
yeah.
know? I was supposed to have soda, but I drank plenty of soda growing up.
Yeah.
It's whatever. And like the only concern I have is there's video games are so universal that you worry that the kids are going to be kind of like weird.
Right.
Now it's weird if you don't play video games.
Yeah, it is.
When we were kids, like playing video games was a little odd.
A little niche, yeah.
Certainly if it was your main hobby. But now it's like if you're not playing video games, like what are you talking
You're the
about?
outcast, yeah. If you don't have a character in Fortnite with a bunch of bling on.
now I imagine your dad being in Minecraft probably mitigates that to some degree.
You would think. Okay, next up. This week, we're finally getting the first gameplay of Marathon. A big deal or not a big deal?
We'll see. I mean, probably not a big deal.
It's going up on Saturday, for those of you wondering. They're going to put up the first gameplay trailer. This is Bungie's game as a service. One of the few games as a service that PlayStation has not canceled.
Yeah, so you wonder what they got.
Yeah.
If this made it through the filter.
I think it's a big deal.
We'll see.
First new game from Bungie in 15 years.
All right.
Yeah, I mean it's a multiplayer shooter, so I know for you just organically.
Me, sure, but also it's like, what do you? So who are you again?
Yeah, seriously, what is Bungie now?
What are you now?
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
I don't think we're gonna know until we get the first beta, until people get their hands on it.
Yeah, yep. But I'm excited to check it out on Saturday. Hopefully, you guys are too. We'll see.
I hope they didn't waste this art direction on a bad game.
They put out a teaser trailer that's up on SIFTD right now that just shows a character. It's in engine, and it just shows a character basically sitting. Like, and a little cat comes up and, like, cuddles up to them, and then that's it. And then on Saturday, they're actually going to show the game in action. So, I mean, there's no denying it. Definitely has a unique look.
Oh, yeah.
Whether people are going to like it or not.
Doesn't look like anything else, including Marathon.
No, you're right.
So, we'll see.
That's a good point, actually. So, anyway, don't forget, Saturday, the first look at Marathon. We should have that up live on SIFTD. Next up in our lightning round... There are rumors circulating, Matt, that Titanfall 3 is coming in 2026. I almost didn't include this because I'm not familiar with the leakers. Everyone else is saying that they're ultra reliable. There's two different people that have confirmed this. They're both prolific Apex Legends leakers who have gotten so much stuff right about Apex Legends over the years. Going back years, they've got Apex Legends stuff right. So everyone swears that these guys are legit. I don't trust them. But they're saying Titanfall 3 in 2026. Believe it or not.
I don't know. I would like to believe it.
Me too.
I'd like to see Titanfall come back.
Because there have been rumors that Respawn was working on it, and then it was canceled.
I feel like, I would like to think that, they know they did such a good job on that campaign in 2 that they know they shouldn't let that die forever. Yeah. Like, I'd love to see them follow that up. Because very few companies make first-person shooter campaigns of any interest or consequence. And those guys kind of started it, Half-Life was obviously important, but it wasn't, it wasn't really a slam bang first person shooter. It was a first person game.
Yeah.
But like with Allied Assault, the people that went on to be Respawn and Infinity Ward before it, they really kind of invented the first person shooter campaign of like kind of
that we play today.
Yeah, it came from Saving Private Ryan, but like you don't get to that without that. And so. They're still arguably the best to ever do it.
I'd agree with that, actually. Best to make a shooter campaign. Yeah. Yep, I agree. Next story. So, Asus basically let it out of the bag that it is working with Xbox on the Xbox handheld. It put out a teaser trailer that you're seeing right now that shows their handheld, the Asus ROG Ally, combining with an Xbox controller in some magical device to spit out a brand new handheld, which is, you would assume, the Xbox handheld.
Now, let's not forget, this is clearly based on The Fly, which was body horror. That didn't work out for anyone.
That's true.
I take this to mean that your new Asus Xbox ROG is going to vomit on you to digest you.
Is this kind of thing going to be a big deal or not, Matt?
Not at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't Xbox branded handheld, great, sure, whatever, but I don't see the point unless somebody really likes green.
Yeah. I think if they had made it themselves and made it proprietary instead of partnering with somebody, people would pay more attention to it. But look, they put out this trailer and hardly anyone cared. And that to me was the clearest sign that
this is literally the first I've heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been, and actually this was in the show last week. We didn't get to it. So it's actually been around for like a week and a half now. And people still are not talking about it. So yeah, that says to me that Xbox handheld DOA. I hope I'm wrong, because I like to see new hardware that's successful, and I like for people to have options.
Is this new, though? It's just a rebranded thing that already exists, really?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it really is. They'll probably put the home button on there so you can go to the guide on your Xbox, and that's probably will be the extent of it. Like, I mentioned them maybe including like a Game Pass button, but I doubt it.
No.
I don't see that happening. Next story.
Only Nintendo gets to put a button on that they charge money for you to press.
They're the only ones allowed. We discovered in the last week that both Intergalactic and The Witcher 4 are not coming until 2027 at the earliest.
Which I'm pretty sure I said about both of those originally.
When they were announced.
Yeah.
Matt, does that make both of those games PlayStation 6 games?
I would think so.
Do you think they'll be dual gen where they play on both?
Probably.
Do you think it's a big deal that we may get to a point where Naughty Dog has not released a single game for the PlayStation 5?
Maybe. The rumor is they've still got something else in there.
Yeah,
somewhere.
they said. I mean, it sounds like that fantasy game might be something else and still be alive.
So I don't know. Which begs the question of why you announced this first.
Right.
But like, I don't know.
This goes back to the prior thing we were discussing, where it's like, dial it back, man. Like, you didn't put out a whole...
Fucking chill.
I mean, seriously, you didn't put out a game for the entire generation.
I have seen speculation that one of the reasons they announced this when they did was because of the licensing deals that they had to kind of it's like a make good thing.
Oh, with like Porsche and
you had
Adidas
to show that you were actively moving forward on this thing that they had
paid money for. Interesting.
There's no proof of that.
Yeah.
There's no actual evidence. I've seen
it kind of makes sense.
But I've seen people babbling about it on Reddit.
Yeah.
So who knows? I don't know if it's true, but I thought it was an interesting point.
Are you okay with announcing these games this early?
I mean, I don't really
knowing
care.
they're not coming for 4 years or whatever?
I don't really care. Like, you announce these things and then I just sort of ignore them until they show up. Basically.
Yeah, or we get another trailer or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're both agreed that these are probably going to be cross-gen games.
100%.
Yeah. PS5 and PS6.
I mean, or PS6 only if they're doing something that they can only be done on
PS5 Pro only.
PS5 Pro, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how
see.
you play that.
Some kind of a straddling going on there.
I feel like it would be silly to alienate the entire PS5 Pro, at least, audience. Like, who knows? Everything's scalable now.
Yeah, it really is. It just depends on how willing you are to put it out there, not looking at its best.
Yeah, if you want to play this with no ray tracing at 30, play it on PS5.
Right.
Who knows?
But will Naughty Dog allow that? Probably not.
We'll see which one it sells better.
Yeah, you're right, actually. At the end of the day, money talks, bullshit walks. And then our final story for the lightning round is that Ghost of Yotei has been reconfirmed for 2025. They updated its official page on the PlayStation.com with a bunch of screenshots and other information, and the updated release date was there, and it still says 2025.
And underneath it says, for real, for real.
Yeah, do you for real think it's really coming in 2025?
I think they intend it to, yeah. I mean, anything can happen, but I think they do intend to release it this year.
I do too. I'm 50-50 on whether that actually happens.
Anything can happen. But again, they've had time.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it should be ready.
You'd think.
They've had enough time to finish it, that's for sure.
I mean, if it drops out, you can always just count on Starfield.
It's so funny. Let's count on Xbox exclusives to keep PlayStation fans happy.
I hope it makes it. I'd like to play that this year.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's on my fantasy team. I definitely would like to see it released this year, but I'd feel a lot better if they even gave it a date that they weren't really serious about. I mean, we have a date for Death Stranding 2 at this point, but for Ghost of Yotei.
If they don't release this year, like that's like basically the only remaining Sony exclusive for the year is Death Stranding 2, and that's June.
Yeah,
and like nothing else for 6 months or more.
But as we said earlier, it doesn't matter anymore.
Like Sony certainly doesn't seem afraid of doing that, but I feel like this will make it.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not super unhappy it's not on my team. But
thanks, Matt.
But I think it'll make it.
All right.
Sucker Punch is pretty reliable.
They usually are. Yep. All right, that's it for our lightning round, which means there's just one more thing to do on GameFace 428. That's right. It's time for Name That Game Tune, brought to you by Soundwizardry.com, the true wizards of Game Audio. They have worked on the audio for several Game of the Year winners, several Game of the Year contenders, and they're working on a big game right now that just might be another Game of the Year contender. They have worked on some of the biggest projects in the industry. If you need somebody to handle audio on your games or any other project that you're working on, go to Soundwizardry.com. They do game audio, but they work on audio of all types. So if you have any audio issues or an audio project or just a part of a project that you're working on where audio is involved, make sure you hit up Soundwizardry.com. Again, I say this every week, they are the best frickin' people. And I know personally, in my professional life, if I have two people there or two companies there, and I can't decide which one, I'm going to work with the people that I want to work with. Go with Glenn at soundwizardry.com. Good people, even better work. You will not regret it. Go to soundwizardry.com. And how we do this is I play you 5 audio samples from a video game, and you try to guess the name of that game before Matt Keil, who's sitting right here. It could be voiceover work, it could be a part of the soundtrack, it could be sound effects. We mix them all up, making them really hard to get at first and then easier as we go along as we get to the 5th sample. A few things before we get going. If you have already played and won this year, do not play. You can only win once per calendar year. Don't mess it up. Don't play if you can't win. It will suck to go through all this and all the work that I do for this just for nothing, because that's what will happen if you win and you've already won. We put the chat into slow mode. You can only input one chat entry every 60 seconds. Do not spam the chat with a bunch of game titles. You will lose. And then finally, hopefully you enjoy PC games and you're a PC gamer. If not, please do not play, because we give away a free PC game code to the person who wins this. I don't want to just spend the money on a code and have it go to waste. So you can give it to a friend if you have a friend who plays PC games, but don't play if you have no use for a PC game code. Let somebody else win who will actually use it, or give it to somebody who will use it. All right, let me get Matt's headphones turned up so he can hear. And then let me get to the sound bank, and we are ready to go. Are you ready to play Name That Game, Matt?
Yeah.
Are you guys ready to play Name That Game? Here we go with the first sample in 3, 2, 1. Just going to play it once. Any guesses? Alien Isolation, no. Fallout 4, no. Balatro, no. Shenmue, no. That would be very sly of me, wouldn't it? Dino Crisis, no. Hybrid Heaven, no. Someday Hybrid Heaven, though. Alien Isolation, that's 2 guesses for that. No. Resident Evil 2, no. Dino Crisis, no. AC Valhalla, no. Stellar Blade, no. It sounds so familiar. That's how this game does, though. It's like, I know it's in my file somewhere. Can I pull it out and name the file? Any other guesses before we go on to the second one?
Resident Evil 4?
Nope. Not RE4. Going once. Going twice. All right. Here's the second sample in 3, 2, 1. The Talos Principle, no.
Metal Gear Solid?
No. Beyond Good and Evil, no. Devil May Cry, no. Stanley Parable, no. Resident Evil 1, no. Atomfall, no. Outer Worlds, no. Full Throttle, no. Alan Wake 2, no. Splinter Cell, sorry. It does sound like an RE game. RE4 remake, no. Nope. Justin Horman. Wait, didn't he just say he knew what it was? Oh, he just said it sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah. Any other guesses for that second one before we go to the third? Somebody's got to win this week. We've had 2 weeks we've gone now without anybody winning. Resident Evil 0, no. All right, we're going to the third sample. Going once. Going twice. Okay, here's the third sample in 3, 2, 1.
Come back anytime.
All these samples are longer. Nier Automata, no. Tekken, no. I thought people might get it on that. I'm going to play that one again because I thought people might get it on this one.
Come back anytime.
Pirate Yakuza Hawaii, nope. Fire Emblem Three Houses, no. God Hand, no. Final Fantasy 16, no. Vincent says he knows it. Something with a shopkeeper. Sea of Thieves, no. Brothers, no. Metaphor Refantasio, no. Oh, we have a winner. It's Big Dave Lazard. Awesome. Somebody got it. I really was afraid that nobody was going to get it. It is Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. And then I'll play the last two here. Here's the fourth one. And here's the fifth one.
Arise, myself and my shadow!
There you go. That last one, that spell that I use over and over. After I put this together, I'm like, but what if everybody else didn't use that spell?
Yeah.
Like, then they would never know.
I think I would have known that on the fourth one.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I played that game, but a lot of it didn't. Now I recognize that that's her feet clopping.
That sound of her
one,
feet,
yeah.
it's like you hear it the whole freaking clop, 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 clop. I thought that one definitely gave it away.
It sounded a little bit, to me, it sounded like Snake knocking on the
Oh, interesting. I can see where you might have got that. Let me scroll up here again. Oh, Drifter J, looks like he got it too, but too late. Big Dave Lazard, congratulations once again. You can send me a DM right here on Twitch. You can send me a DM on SIFTD. I'm at Shane. You can get at me on Twitter, although I'm not really there anymore, at Dinfire. Better on Blue Sky, at Shane Satterfield. You can find me. Just hit me up, and I'll get your code out to you as soon as I can. But yeah, it looks like a couple people maybe got it after that. Drifter J. Actually, I'm curious if Vincent was right. Vincent, were you right? Did you think it was Bloodstained? I went a little off the reservation for this one, but the last two games were big games that people didn't get, so I was just like, maybe going off the reservation is the right call to make sure that somebody actually wins. Thank you guys, by the way, for hooking up the hype train today. Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for GameFace episode 428 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I want to remind you that we are supported 100% at patreon.com/sifted. For just $4 a month, you get all our content early. This show 4 days early, Pactor Factor a week early, all our other content 3 days early. That's awesome. If you can do that, that's the best way to support us. If you can't afford $4 a month, but you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, hook us up with Amazon Prime. You hear us talking about it in the show, people doing it live while we're doing the show. You can become a part of that. If you haven't done it, go down below in our YouTube description. We have step-by-step instructions on how to do it. It's very easy. Hooking it up the first time takes like 2 minutes. After that, every month, it literally takes 2 clicks to give us $2. 2 clicks for $2. Once you've hooked them up, it's easy. We'd appreciate it very much. And if you can't do that and you have no money, then just like the show, comment on the show, share the show on social media. That would be awesome. Review the show on podcast services where you're listening to the show. All this stuff really matters. I'm not saying this for no reason. It does matter. And I appreciate that stuff almost as much as people who are giving us real money. So it makes a big difference. Twitch Prime, it's free. 2 clicks for $2. I don't know why anybody wouldn't do it. We'd appreciate it very much if you could. It would be awesome. Next week. So you will have played South of Midnight by next week. Are there any big games this week that are coming out? I don't remember, actually.
I think there was another one coming.
Yeah?
I can't remember what it was.
Oh.
There was one other.
I know news was slow this week. I actually had to pull a couple news stories from last week into this week's show, and people weren't really discussing them. Vincent brings up Blueprints, actually, which is this puzzle game that's like Game of the Year, apparently. It's like, it's Metacritic's like a 9 point something. It's really insane. So anyway, we'll probably be talking about that. Chillax Broseph, thank you for Twitch Prime getting in there at the end. Let me scroll up here and make sure I didn't miss anybody else. Nope, I think you were the only one getting in at the end there. Awesome. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Just Blueprints?
I think Blueprints is the main one.
The big one?
Yeah.
All right.
Unless you're a real big Commandos fan.
No, definitely not. I'm definitely not qualified to review RTS games. It's one of the few genres I do not feel qualified to review. RTS and MMORPG. If I ever try to tell you to buy one of those games, do not listen to me.
When's the 15th?
Like a week from now.
Yeah, so that won't be in time. So 15th is Lost in Bloom Tape 2.
Oh.
That's about it.
I may be able to play that because I have review code. So they may hook me up with that one.
Time Gal HD remastered.
They will pass on that
love those FMV games. And Crashlands 2.
Okay.
Which I know that name for some reason, but I don't know what it is really.
All right, that's going to do it for GameFace 428. Thanks to everybody on our chat for being a part of the show. You guys are a part of the show, that if you aren't in it, we miss you guys, and the show is not as good without you. We're here every Tuesday, usually, at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/SIFTD Games. Come by and see us. Really, this show, you don't really understand how truly awesome it is until you watch it live with all of our fans and all the awesome people in our chat. They really make things better, both for the viewer and for Matt and I sitting here doing this show. So have an awesome week full of awesome games. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.